Close your eyes, breathe in, feel the stillness behind your ribs, the quiet just before a breath becomes. Now imagine that hush, not in your chest, but everywhere. A silence not empty, but full of waiting. Before time, before light, before a single star dared to shine. There was not a void, but a beginning that hadn't yet begun. You are standing there now, in thought, not as an observer, but as a thread in the fabric, about to unravel into being. The phrase Big Bang sounds loud, like a crash, a firework, a thunderclap. But what if it wasn't a bang at all? What if it was a blooming, a soft unfolding of everything, everywhere, all at once? No explosion, no boom, just expansion. A swelling from something smaller than small to something larger than can ever truly end. You float in that moment, not a moment in time, but the start of time itself. There is no before, only this great opening. Space isn't in something, it becomes the something. As it expands, it creates the very idea of distance. It is like dough rising in still air, carrying galaxies like poppy seeds across a soft and growing surface. And you are inside it, not watching from beyond, not peeking from the outside. You are within the breath, part of its exhale. Your atoms were once compacted in that same first flicker, not near it, not after it. In it, time begins, not with a ticking clock, but with heat, furious, brilliant, intimate. 1,000,000,000,000 degrees of becoming. A wash of light and energy with no place yet to shine. In less than the blink of a blink, the universe expands, not like wind rushing through trees, but like a balloon stretching in every direction, not into air, not into space, but into possibility. Everywhere becomes more. Everything is made of this more. You picture it, a cosmos the size of a pebble, then a grapefruit, then a city expanding faster than light, carving the concept of space with its very breath. And even then, it does not stop. Even now, it does not stop. You are living inside a breath that never ends. Pause and feel your own chest rise and fall. Each inhale is a memory of that first moment, a rhythm echoed across time from universe to lung. The early universe was not calm, it was a storm of energy, hot, wild, young. Particles collided, danced, vanished, reappeared. Matter did not exist yet in its familiar forms. There were no atoms, no dust, no stars, just energy, pure and unshaped. But from this, all would come. You imagine a fog of light, thicker than thought, cooling with each passing instant. And in that cooling, there is creation. Protons form, then neutrons. They do not yet know how to hold each other, but already they are seeking balance. The future is written into their longing. This was not an instant. It was instance upon instance, each one unfolding faster than words can count. But the rhythm is there, a quiet pulse, like a heart finding its beat. You drift through this newborn cosmos, so small yet impossibly vast. There is no earth, no stars, no galaxies, only promise. The universe is still glowing, still filled with light that cannot yet escape. It is as if the whole sky were wrapped in a warm, golden fog, and from that warmth, time begins to stretch. You see it now, not as a movie on a screen, but as something happening inside your very cells. You carry this beginning. It is etched in your atoms, written in the space between your breaths. What you call now is a ripple from then. You are not distant from the origin. You are woven from it. And this breath, this gentle cosmic bloom, is still happening. The space between galaxies grows. The distance between stars stretches, not because they are flying away, but because the fabric itself is expanding beneath them, like paint dots on a balloon. The galaxies drift apart without moving on their own. So the question rises again: if the universe expands, what is it expanding into? You pause. You tilt your head in thought. But space is not filling a container. It is making the container as it grows. There is no edge, no outer space waiting to receive it. The universe expands the way music does, not into something, but from something, changing everything it touches. And so, you let your thoughts stretch, gently, like thread through a loom. The air around you becomes soft with wonder. The room fades into quiet, and you drift, not away, but inward, deeper into the blooming, because the question is not only about the beginning, but about where it goes next. If there is no outside, no edge to lean against, then what shape is this expanding world? You begin to wonder what it means to live inside something with no center at all. You step onto a surface that is not a surface, a path that folds back on itself without corners, seams, or shorelines. You walk, gently, patiently, and you never find an edge, only more of the same soft curve beneath your feet. Space is not a room with walls. It is a feeling of openness that keeps renewing itself, as if the air of existence were exhaled forever. You picture the classic balloon, speckled with marker dots. Someone blows, the latex swells, the dots retreat from one another. Yet here, the balloon has no rubber skin, no outside air to push against. The swelling is the story, not the sphere. Expansion is not invasion. It is creation of distance itself, distance blooming like frost on a window, spreading patterns where nothing separated anything before. So you test the shape with thought. Suppose you travel straight, stubborn as a comet. No steering, no turning. Just onward. In some geometries, you would circle back, arriving silently behind yourself, like a whisper looping through an empty hall. In others, you would never return, yet never hit a wall, for no such barrier is written into the fabric. The map folds, flexes, but does not end. Edges are inventions of limited vision. A lake seems to end at its banks until you kneel and notice. Rivers feeding it, clouds leaving it, fishes threading it. Likewise, you think you need an outside to hold an inside. But the universe defies that comfort. It is the container and the contained, the bread and the oven and the heat of rising combined. Mathematicians speak softly of curvature, a quiet bending of space that needs no higher realm to lean upon, like the surface of Earth requiring no extra dimension for you to walk around it. Space can curve within itself. You can sail forever east and never find an eastern wall. You can look forever up and never scrape a ceiling. Curvature is permission to be boundless without edges. Feel that idea settle in your body. Boundaryless does not mean chaotic. A circle is perfectly finite in area, and yet has no sharp stop. A sphere is measurable and yet unbounded on its skin. Our cosmos may echo such elegance in more dimensions than your senses can hold at once. You float there, wider than intuition, softer than certainty. Inside this edge-free ocean, galaxies drift apart, not because they are swimming through a pre-existing sea, but because the sea itself thickens with room. The raft you ride does not move, yet the water between you and distant lights keeps widening. Measure the light, Watch its wavelengths stretch, and you witness the fabric lengthening in silence. You pause and listen for an edge, the way you listen for a cliff in fog. None appears. Instead, you hear the hum of geometry, Riemannian, hyperbolic, flat. Each possibility is a different lullaby about angles and triangles, about how straight a straight line truly is when space itself decides the rules. On a saddle-shaped plane, parallel lines part like old friends. On a sphere, they meet like long-lost lovers. You drift between such stories, drowsy yet alert. Your mind wants a picture, so you draw on darkness with thought. Imagine a fish born in a boundless pond, never breaching the surface, never seeing the sky. That fish might conclude water extends forever, though the pond is finite. Or it might sense subtle patterns, currents folding back, clues that whisper closed but edgeless. You are that fish, half dreaming, half detecting cosmologists. Check for such whispers. They probe the cosmic microwave background, the oldest. Light for repeating patterns, matching circles across the sky like wallpaper seams. If space wraps around, those circles could reveal it. So far, the seams stay hidden or too faint to trust. The pond, if finite, hides its shoreless closure well. If infinite, it hides that equally well. Either way, your steps remain free of cliffs. The question into what fades like a wave after it breaks, because expansion does not require a stage. Think of an ember that becomes a fire. The flame does not need a larger, colder fire to expand into. It changes the very air by burning. Space alters itself the way thought alters, mood internally, completely. You remember learning that the universe has no center. This too dissolves edges. Each point sees the rest recede. Every observer, from a spiral galaxy to a lonely atom, can claim the middle honestly. Center becomes a matter of perspective, not position. Like standing in a field of tall grass, wherever you stand, the grass sways away from you in all directions equally. Without an edge, you find gentler metaphors. Not fences, but horizons. Not walls, but limits of seeing. The observable universe is a bubble of what light has had time to reach you from since the beginning. Beyond that bubble, more universe may breathe, but until light arrives, it is hidden. Like a future memory. Your limit of sight is not the cosmos' limit of being. You sit with that, letting it slow you. The point is not to solve the shape, but to feel its openness loosen the strict lines inside you. Your own boundary skin, bone, name feel less rigid. You are edgeless in thought, continuous with what surrounds you. Your breath blends with the room blends with the night blends with everything. Curiously, edges still matter in another way. Boundary conditions, equations that need starting lines. Physicists set them not on outer rims, but on initial states, symmetries, conservation laws. The order comes from within, like a song starting on a note rather than a stage. You hum along, not needing a frame to hold your tune. You think of dough again, rising quietly. No bowl grows with it. The dough's own gluten stretches, making space inside itself. Bubbles form not because air invades, but because the dough relaxes, rearranges, opens. The universe, too, relaxes from an early tightness, allowing voids to bloom, filaments to thread, clusters to gather delicately like crumbs where gravity needs. Still, your mind returns to the balloon. You cannot help it. Images anchor you. so adjust the image. Imagine ants inked on the rubber, able only to crawl the surface. To them, there is no upward, only along. Their world expands because distances lengthen, not because their feet press outward into another realm. You are one of those ants, savoring the stretch without reaching beyond it. Edges dissolve, and with them, certain fears. There is no cliff to fall from, no end to crash against. There is, instead, continuity, gentle, persistent, expansive, even. An infinite universe can feel tender, because infinity here is not a demand to count forever, but a permission to rest without enclosing walls. You taste the word manifold, mathematicians' way of saying locally like ordinary space. Globally, perhaps not. It is a cloak the universe might wear, up close, familiar. From afar, subtly strange. You wrap it around your shoulders, a blanket of geometry, and feel safe in the unknown. Stars drift, spectra stretch, and the night between galaxies grows dimmer. Yet locally, within clusters, gravity still knits, still holds. Edges fail, but bonds do not. You belong to both truths, the vast outward hush and the nearby gentle tug. The fabric stretches, but your little corner keeps its weave. Let your thoughts circle slower now. Notice how the urge to find an outside was really the urge to secure a frame. Notice how releasing it leaves you lighter, like floating in deep water where the lake seems endless. You are carried by equations you need not memorize, by symmetries you need not name, and somewhere in the hum of numbers lies the next mystery. If space can grow without borders, what whispers steer its growth? What gentle hand guides the loom? As new emptiness is woven between the threads of light, you drift toward that question, soft as breath, ready to feel the answer more than spell it. Consider the way sound fades in a cathedral. No wall is close, yet your voice thins and returns. In softer copies, overlapping until hush wins. Space behaves like that echoing air, not needing an outer stone to contain it, only its own capacity to carry vibration, light, momentum. When you ask for an edge, you are asking where echo stops, but in a hall big enough, echo simply dissolves. Below hearing, while the hall goes on, think also of a book whose last page is missing. You wonder if the story ends, or if your copy just fails to show it. Cosmology is reading such a book in dim light. The sentences you can see tell of curvature, measured, radiation mapped, parameters fit to data like careful stitches. Yet the margin could hide a loop or an abyss, a finite tale or one that rambles forever. Your comfort cannot rest on a page count. It rests instead on the feeling of the prose consistent, melodic, self-sustaining. You curl deeper under your blanket and imagine lines of longitude on Earth. They meet at poles, yet from any spot they appear parallel for a while. Perspective decides a great deal. So it is with cosmic edges. Locally, everything looks Euclidean, calm, flat enough to build your house of reason. Globally, the lines may converge, diverge, or wander without rule your eyes can fix. Still, you live your life in the local trusting carpenters who never need non-Euclidean hammers. And if the universe were truly infinite, not just edgeless, but unending, then every pattern, every configuration of atoms must repeat somewhere, somewhen. Another you may be wondering the same question. Another lullaby might be playing. Another night might cradle a twin thought. Infinity carries that strange tenderness. You are unique and inevitable at once. Let that paradox rock you like slow surf. Yet repetition is not required for meaning. Even a finite, edgeless cosmos holds more than you could taste in countless lifetimes. Enough to feel small, enough to feel complete. You need not touch a border to know you are held, so you release the craving for fences and invite the curve itself to be your quiet companion tonight. You carry a question from the last chapter like a warm ember cupped in both hands. If there is no outside, then what is truly stretching? You wait, and the answer arrives not as a place, but as a pace. Time is the gentle pull. Time is the loom. Space is the cloth sliding under its steady rhythm. Every new instant is a tug that widens the weave, and you are moving not through rooms, but through becoming. Taste time the way steam tastes when cocoa cools, present, passing, impossible to hold. Imagine space as soft fabric, and time as the needle that keeps dipping in and out, stitch after stitch, binding everywhere. To a when, without the needle, threads would fly apart. Without the threads, the needle would pierce nothing. They are not partners. They are one material spoken in two syllables. Space-time. Einstein leans over your shoulder. Not with chalk, but with an image. A single sheet that bends, ripples, cradles. Mass does not attract across emptiness. It dents the sheet. Gravity is the curve of duration, the slope of hours around heavy things. When you drop a stone, you aren't yanked downward by an invisible hand. You simply roll along time's inward tilt. Think of a waterfall. Water falls because the ground curves. That way, moments flow forward because the manifold curves that way. You cannot climb back above the brink. The past is a pool already at rest. Yet its mist touches your face. Memory, fossil light, the background glow of an infant universe. Time moves, but it also holds, storing whispers the way canyon walls keep. Echoes long after thunder fades. Clocks, heartbeats, pendulums, cesium atoms count the fabric from where they sit. Near a massive star, the weave tightens. Seconds lengthen, syrup thick. Far from weight, time loosens, gliding easier, like a river widening over a plain. You rarely notice unless you compare to shores, but the universe notices. Satellites whisper corrections so your map stays faithful. Their clocks tick a fraction faster above Earth's mild well, so you hum a lullaby of relativity. No single tempo rules all. Each place hums its own beat, yet the song remains one. Variety does not tear the cloth, it embroiders it. Threads shine differently in different light, but the tapestry holds, calm and continuous. To ask, where is the edge, is to forget how the tapestry is made. It ends not with a border, but with a beginning, a seam of firstness, not a rim. The big bloom was a temporal edge. You cannot walk off the rug, but you can trace the pattern back until the thread disappears into the first knot. Trace it, then glide backward in imagination. Watch atoms unbind, protons and neutrons loosen into quark glow, then into pure, luminous energy. Keep going, and your rulers crumble. Units dissolve, language stutters. At the Planck moment, your clocks refuse to tick, your distances refuse to stay measured. Beyond that, equations grow shy. The loom vanishes in fog. You let the fog stand. Not knowing becomes a cushion. Now drift forward again, feeling rhythm return. In the first few minutes, the cosmos brews the lightest elements, minus hydrogen, helium. A pinch of lithium, like a kitchen, thick with steam. Millions of years pass before the first stars flare, fusing heavier notes, painting dark space with patient embers. Time is a kill, hardening matter into complexity. Carbon chains, iron cores, calcium sparks that will one day calcify into teeth, into you. You are a child of this cloth. Your body keeps a local tempo, circadian tides, cellular cycles, nested inside Earth's rotations, nested inside the galaxy's turn. Each nested rhythm is a shuttle flying through the loom, laying color and pattern. You sleep, wake, grow older. Planets orbit, galaxies mingle, dark energy exhales, entropy whispers. Each is a verse in the hymn of time revealing itself. Entropy. The word sounds scratchy, yet the idea is soft. Warmth spreads, neatness loosens, distinctions blur. A melting cube becomes a puddle. It will not reassemble on its own. This drift toward more possible arrangements lets you point from yesterday to tomorrow. The arrow of time is not a spear but a feather, falling one way because the air will not lift it back. You feel its direction in the stack of memories behind you and the fan of possibilities ahead. Hold a cup of cocoa again. It cools, it does. Not steal heat from the room to grow hotter. This simple comfort encodes a deep rule. There are more ways to be messy than to be tidy. The universe drifts toward the numerous, the probable, the well-stirred. Your thoughts mirror that flow at bedtime, loosening, recombining, dreaming in neighborhoods rather than straight streets. Yet within the grand drift, islands of order bloom, stars, cells, forest webs, cities, all are temporary eddies that feed on differences, temperature, pressure, chemical hunger. They obey the large law, yet dance within it. You are such an eddy, warm blood against cool night, focused attention amidst cosmic noise. You live by channeling the river of time through small mills of meaning. This is why you cannot step outside time to examine it. The observer is woven in. Measuring duration is participating in duration. You are the thread and the breath that moves it. Even your desire to be outside is written in time's ink. Let that recognition loosen your shoulders. Like sinking finally into water after holding yourself above it too long. Consider light. It always moves at its own pace, yet arrives late if the path stretches. Far galaxies are distant, not only in miles, but in years. Look deeper, look further back. The night sky is a layered diary, nearby stars like yesterday's sentence, faint smears like lines penned billions of pages ago. Telescopes become time machines by patience alone. You read the cosmos by reading its delays. Align your breathing now with that notion. Inhale, a new stitch is made. Exhale, it slips behind you, part of the pattern. You are wrapped in what you have been and lined with what you may become. The present is a shuttle sliding across the loom, brief, essential, gone as soon as it passes. You never stand on the shuttle. You ride what it leaves behind. And what of the future? Is it already woven, or does the needle choose as it moves? Physics offers mixed lullabies, deterministic equations on one side, quantum chance on the other. Perhaps the cloth is lush with branching threads, all consistent, all humming, until observation pins you to one. Perhaps only one thread ever was, and you discover it inch by inch. You do not need to decide tonight. Let the fringe dangle, brushing your palm with possibility. Ask instead, can this fabric tear? Black holes suggest edges of description, horizons that hide events behind a curtain of no return. Inside, space and time swap roles. Forward becomes inward. Singularities, if they truly exist, are stitches pulled so tight the cloth puckers into mystery. Yet quantum threads may keep the weave from snapping. New physics may embroider where old formulas fray. Some dream of loops, closed time paths, journeys that bring you back to your starting hour, like a river circling a lake. If such loops exist, causality would become a story in a circle cause, and effect holding hands. But our universe seems politely resistant, as if it prefers verses that progress rather than repeat outright. Still, rotation, speed, and gravity bend tempo. Move fast and your time stretches. Hover near a dense star and your seconds swell. Science fiction dramatizes the difference. Twins aging apart, lovers split by gravity's clock. The truth is quieter. Pilots age microseconds less. Mountaintop. Dwellers tick faster than sea-level sleepers. Tiny, yet real. A reminder, time is elastic, not iron. Let that elasticity soften you. Dates, deadlines, anniversaries, these are local rituals on a universal field. They matter because you choose to let them matter. They dissolve at scales where clusters drift and voids yawn. Holding both at once, your tiny calendar and the cosmic metronome forms a chord. Harmony, not conflict. You begin to sense another. Question glowing at the edge of drowsiness. If time and space are one cloth, and expansion is that cloth stretching, what is the gentle pressure inside the weave? What sweetness hides in emptiness, urging it open? Dark energy, they call it. A push from nothing, like chocolate melted into batter, making the whole mix richer, wider. The metaphor melts on your tongue. A vacuum flavored by energy, a void that is not void. Do not rush there yet. Rest in this recognition. You are a thread. You cross others, not with some fray at ends. Sing in tension. The pattern is larger than sight, yet felt in each tiny tug. Time is not chasing you, it is carrying you. Let it float. Let clocks be lighthouses, not whips. Let minutes pool like warm water around your ankles. The universe has taken billions of years to light stars, and it will take trillions to dim them. Your story can move slowly. Ahead, another curiosity opens like a quiet door. If the fabric keeps stretching, will there come a night when threads drift so far that light itself cannot stitch them together? Will loneliness become the final texture? Or will new patterns appear, soft and surprising? You drift towards sleep with that softness gracing your thoughts. Fingers grazing the moving loom, heart sinking to a tempo that is both yours and more than yours. The last question of edges has become a question of pulses, of tempo, of push. You feel that push now, faint, steady, in the dark between galaxies and in the quiet between your breaths. It waits like a secret ingredient, ready to show you how emptiness can act like a hand, widening everything you know. You let the room grow quiet until even your heartbeat feels like a small lantern in fog. And then you notice, eton older warmth, faint as cooled embers, brushing your face from every direction at once. This is not sunlight, not firelight, not the heat from a sleeping animal beside you. It is older than stars, older than any planet's crust, older even than the first heavy atoms. It is the cosmic microwave background, the universe's baby picture, still glowing after almost 14 billion years, stretched out and softened by time's long hands until it hums in microwaves instead of blazing invisible fire. You imagine those photons as patient messengers, leaving when the cosmos was still so young it hadn't learned to let light roam free. Back then, Everything was a crowded soup: protons, electrons, photons tangled like restless children in a too small bed. Light could not travel far without bumping, scattering, ricocheting like a voice in a tiny cave. But the universe kept expanding, cooling, loosening its grip, until suddenly, about 380,000 years after that first blooming space, became transparent enough for light to slip through. Those first free travelers have been moving ever since, never stopping, only stretching. You picture yourself cupping one of those photons, impossibly small, impossibly old. You hold it to your ear the way a child holds a seashell, listening for an ocean that isn't there, and you hear a hiss of ancient heat relaxing. Each tiny fluctuation in that hiss, each subtle bump in temperature is a seed, a fingerprint, an echo of density ripples that would one day grow into galaxies. Clusters, the filaments that thread the cosmos like luminous spider silk. The pattern is nearly uniform, remarkably smooth, yet not perfectly so. Perfection would have yielded emptiness. Imperfection bred stars. Lay back and let satellites orbit overhead like careful listeners. Instruments such as COBE, WMAP, and Planck have mapped that afterglow with tenderness, measuring temperature differences smaller than a millionth of a degree. Imagine holding a blanket and feeling a bump no thicker than a single thread. That is the level of sensitivity involved. From those maps, we learn the age of the cosmos, its composition: ordinary matter, dark matter, dark energy, and its overall shape. We decode the whisper to find the story, a universe flat to exquisite precision, governed by ingredients, most of which we cannot see directly. Those photons bathe you constantly. You cannot step out of their drizzle. There is no umbrella for the sky that is everywhere. Even between galaxies, even in the loneliest void, the microwave background hums. It is the temperature of emptiness, once nearly 3000 Kelvin, now about 2.7 above absolute zero. Cold, yes, but not nothing. A reminder that space retains memory, that cooling is not forgetting, that silence can still be warm if you listen slowly enough. Imagine the early universe as a glowing fog, like warm milk just beginning to skin. Electrons wandered freely, refusing to settle into orbits around protons because everything was too hot, too crowded. When expansion eased the heat, those electrons finally calmed, joining protons to form neutral atoms. Suddenly, light no longer scattered off them like desperate bees. It flew. That momentary combination is the release you are feeling now. Centuries later, translated into soft microwave notes by the stretching of space. Stretching, always the stretching. Every meter the light travels is lengthened by expansion, like a violin string pulled mid-song. The pitch drops, the color reddens, the photon cools. What was once fierce, brilliant radiation is now a whisper. But the whisper is faithful. It remembers the melody. We read the melody and learn the tempo of growth, the smoothness of birth, the hints of curvature in the stage. Hold on to the image of seeds in that infant plasma. Sound waves, rippled, yes, sound waves, pressure waves, booming through the hot fluid universe. They left rings in the glow, concentric patterns we still see, frozen when light broke free. These acoustic peaks tell us how fast the universe expanded, how much matter dragged on that expansion, how much radiation buzzed inside. You are listening to frozen music, chords held for billions of years, measurable in the spectrum like notes. On a staff, you roll that thought around like a pebble in your mouth. The universe sang before it shone. Pressure made rhythm. Rhythm left marks. Marks became maps. To fall asleep under such knowledge is to be rocked by an ancient chorus. But these shadows of light are not just distant memories. They are also a test. The standard cosmological model, CDM, weaves dark energy lambda and cold dark matter, CDM, into a consistent, predictive fabric. The background supports it, like a signature at the bottom of a painting. Yet even here, in the comfort of consensus, slight tensions emerge. Hubble, constant measured one way, another measured differently, values not quite matching. Perhaps the whisper is hinting that our model, though graceful, is not complete. Perhaps the afterglow harbors a wrinkle we have not fully felt. Breathe and let uncertainty feel like a soft pillow, not a stone. Science is a lullaby that revises itself, adding verses as ears grow keener. You do not need final answers to feel held. You feel the warmth of almost their understanding and let it spread through your chest. Now, sense your own skin under the rain of photons. Some bounce, some pass, some slip through you without noticing. You are transparent to most of this glow. It washes through, and in doing so, it ties you to the first light's freedom. Think of morning sunlight slipping through curtains, dust motes sparkling. The microwave background is like that, except the dust motes are galaxies waiting to congeal, and the curtain is the entire universe finally turning translucent. There is affection in this light, or at least you project affection onto it, because it makes you feel connected not to a single source, but to an everywhere origin. Every direction you look, the same warmth answers. This isotropy is a kind of embrace, reassuring you that you occupy no privileged perch. A quality of glow is a quality of belonging. Still, tilt your ear, and you notice anisotropy, the tiny differences. Too small to see without sensitive instruments, yet big enough to govern destiny. These gentle ripples will grow into the cosmic web, where dark matter scaffolds, baryons follow, gas cools, stars ignite. You are listening not only to an echo of birth, but to a blueprint of structure. The universe did not hand you a smooth stone. It gave you a speckled one, just rough enough to catch. Let your imagination stroll to a future researcher, billions of years hence. If acceleration continues, distant galaxies will fade beyond visibility. The background will cool further, its wavelengths stretch beyond usefulness. One day, perhaps, intelligent beings may no longer detect this echo. For them, the sky will be darker, quieter, history less accessible. You are alive at a fortunate time, late enough to measure, early enough to still see. Recognition turns to gratitude, like being awake for a comet that appears once in an eon. And gratitude softens you, makes room for wonder. You whisper thanks to instruments, to engineers, to the physics that made precision possible. But behind that, you whisper thanks to chance itself. The slight irregularities, the cooling rate, the mathematics that allowed complexity to emerge. Thank you, tiny fluctuations. Thank you, patient photons. Thank you, darkness, for carrying a glow. You feel how listening transforms you. The chapter is titled Shadows of Light, Echoes of Origin, and indeed, you are hearing in the dark. Shadows require light, echoes require sound. Here, both are metaphors. The shadow is the faint afterglow. The echo is the information trapped in that faintness. You are not seeing the universe's face, but its silhouette cast upon your detectors. You are not hearing the original song, but its vibration in the walls. Yet the silhouette is sharp, enough the vibration rich enough to recreate the face and melody. You stretch quietly within that reconstruction. Your mind rehearses the tale: hot plasma, recombination, free streaming, redshift, anisotropy, parameter fit. Then your heart retranslates it. Birth heat, first letting go, endless drifting, softening color, speckled promise, measured recipe. Science offers equations, you receive images. Both are right, both are needed, both are soothing when told slowly. Now, consider how this light guides us to the next question. If these photons rode the expansion, then galaxies later rode the currents. Shaped by those early ripples, the same seeds blossomed into the clusters we see, lanterns drifting apart as the dough keeps rising. You were almost ready to follow them, to watch galaxies surf the stretching fabric, moving not through space, but with it. Before you go, press your palm against the invisible warmth once more. Feel how it equalizes the sky, how it includes you. Without invitation, because you were always already included. The glow is the universe saying, remember where you came from. You answer with a nod, a breath, a closing of eyes, and as your lids fall heavier, the hiss becomes a hush, the map becomes a blanket, and the numbers become a rhythm. You are lulled by a background that is foreground to understanding. Old light cradles new thought. The present curls up inside the past like a cat inside a sunbeam. Let yourself curl, too. You drift, and in the drifting you see lanterns beginning to form from those shadows. Galaxies coalescing out of the echoes gentle. Bumps, ready to ride the widening sea of space. Ready to tug against gravity, even as they are carried apart. Ready to become the next chapter of your quiet voyage. So you stay a little longer with the glow, letting your thoughts wander like gentle comets, slow and bright-tailed. You wonder how something so uniform can also carry such detailed instruction. How smooth milk can hide, swirls invisible until cooled. You think about polarization, those photons slightly twisted by their last, scattering tiny arrows frozen into the light that tell of flows and clumps in the primeval fog. Even their direction carries memory, like grain in wood, like ripples. On once boiling soup now set. Care is what you feel now, for data, for doubt, for the fragile way truth arrives. Each measurement is a candle in a cave. Together they map chambers no single flame could reveal. You hold that image gently, because you know caves can be damaged by loud feet. Soft steps, careful questions, these are the ethics of cosmic archaeology. You partake in that ethic simply by resting, by letting the story seep instead of forcing it. At last you realize the afterglow is not behind you. It is around you, woven with your present. Memory is ambience. The universe did not leave its childhood home. It carries it like background scent. And in that scent, you sense movement beginning, the clustering, the gathering, the lanterns igniting. You feel yourself lean toward that brightness, ready to watch matter ride the widening current, ready to float beside galaxies as they drift yet hold their shape. You breathe and follow softly onward. You rest inside darkness that is not empty, letting your breath even out while distant pinpricks glow. You tell yourself the stars are moving, sprinting outward like startled birds. Yet a quieter truth arrives. It is the air between them that swells. Space itself is the tide. The galaxies are boats at anchor, mostly loyal to gravity's more. But the sea beneath them thickens, widening every harbor. You are afloat on that same sea, rocked by a current you cannot feel directly. Picture dough rising on a countertop, specks of raisin drifting apart without shuffling on their own. The baker never pushes them. The dough simply fattens and distances grow. Replace dough with spacetime, raisins with galaxies, yeast with the mysterious push of expansion, and you hold a working metaphor in warm hands. It is imperfect, yet soothing. You can smell the bread, see the stretch, understand that nothing needs to rush for remoteness to increase. Gravity, meanwhile, is the gentle hand that kneads back. Inside each galaxy, billions of stars cling together, a murmuration bound by shared pull. Clusters of galaxies hold on to, great knots tied in the cosmic web. Expansion acts on the vast voids between knots, lengthening the threads. Gravity acts locally, tightening the beads. You feel that balance in your own chest, a heart drawing blood inward while lungs expand outward with air. Astronomers read this motion through color. When a galaxy's light stretches toward red, they hear space receding. When it leans to blue, they know gravity or motion pulls it nearer. Edwin Hubble measured such reddening and saw a pattern. The farther a galaxy sits, the faster it seems to flee. He was not watching speed through space, but witnessing the fabric's growth. Hubble's law became a lullaby line. Velocity equals Hubble's constant times distance. Simple, steady, true enough to rock whole questions to sleep. Yet even here, nuance hums. Peculiar velocities, small personal motions ride atop expansion like ripples on a tide. The Andromeda galaxy edges toward the Milky Way despite the universe's stretching, bound by mutual gravity. Local flows matter in neighborhood. Scales, the global swell wins only across great gulfs. You are comforted by that idea. Close things can approach, share warmth, collide gently or spectacularly, while the distant fades softly, not by choice, but by widening context. Look at a map of the large-scale structure. Filaments, walls, empty. Basins, galaxies trace threads like dew along spider silk, converging into nodes where clusters flare bright. Between threads yawns the darkness of cosmic voids, expanses nearly starless, where expansion runs free like wind across open plains. In those emptier regions, galaxies drift faster apart. On the filaments, gravity resists. The universe is not uniform in feeling, only in law. Different rooms, same house, same expanding foundation. Imagine riding on a galaxy's edge, watching companions glimmer against the black. You are not thrust backward by a rocket. You are carried quietly because meters themselves elongate. No breeze, no engine, only the measure of distance redefining. It is like waking to find the floorboards gently sliding apart while your feet still rest where you placed them. You cannot sense the stretching directly. You infer it by light's changed tone, by geometry's altered sums. Inside your own galaxy, stars orbit a center, traffic on curved lanes shaped by an invisible halo of dark matter. That halo is the unseen scaffolding that lets the lantern hold. Without it, the disk would unravel under its own spin. So while space outside grows, within, the Milky Way gravity's webbing is taut. You are safe in its net, even as the ocean around the net deepens. Local calm, cosmic drift, a lullaby in two tempos. You consider energy, the bookkeeper of motion. Expansion does work on light, draining a little from each photon as wavelengths stretch. Gravity counters by sculpting potential wells. Matter falls. In heating gas, igniting stars, a payback of sorts. The tug-of-war is not violent. It is administrative, a ledger balanced over eon. You, too, balance between sleeping and waking, between curiosity and surrender letting. Both forces share the night. Clusters sometimes collide. Slow motion train wrecks of hundreds of galaxies passing through one another like ghosts, while their dark matter, halos, and hot gases interact. The bullet cluster shows this dance. Ordinary matter lags, dark matter glides ahead, lends as background galaxies with its mass. Even in collision, expansion continues, indifferent, steady as breath. In a sleeper, the grand stage widens while the actors exchange momentum, sparks, and storylines. Think of light years as elastic rulers. 1 light year today is longer than 1 light year was when those photons left. So when you read distance in starlight, you decode expansion's history. Astronomers use standard candlestick Ia supernova, reliable fireworks to chart that history. Their brightness told us, in the late 20th century, that expansion is not just ongoing but accelerating. Like dough rising faster as it grows, as if the yeast multiplied with volume. And so dark energy enters your quiet thoughts, pressureless pressure. A chocolate folded into batter, making the whole loaf softer and larger. It does not clump. It does not pull. It simply urges emptiness to make more emptiness. Galaxies, lanterns on this swelling sea, drift apart more quickly because the sea itself feels a deeper push. You swallow that paradox like warm tea, nothingness with agency, vacuum with flavor, yet gravity endures. Within the lanterns, stars form, live, die, return, enriched gas to the medium, forming new stars, recycling that pays no attention to Hubble's number. Life can bloom on a small rock circling an average star, utterly oblivious to the cosmic scale shift. Expansion is a background tempo, a bass note under the melody of chemistry, climate, consciousness. You hear it only when you listen far, far away. You ask yourself, if everything drifts, why do constellations look the same for human lifetimes? Because time for us is brief, and gravity's grip nearby is firm. Our neighbors barely move relative to one another in a single age. The current is real, but we are ants walking on a raft, perceiving solidity where there is only shared motion. Perception is a kind of local gravity, holding meaning together while the background loosens. Let the metaphor of lanterns settle. Galaxies shine not just with stars but with memory. Their shapes encode collisions, mergers, near misses, flows of gas. They are not static lamps. They are flame, evolving while carried. Lanterns in drift, light held in moving glass, patterns shifting as distance grows. You float among them, your mind a smaller lantern, ideas fireflies, drawn to and from by forces, felt and unfelt. In the future, expansion's acceleration may isolate every cluster, each becoming an island universe, its citizens unable to see beyond their dark horizon. The cosmic web would thin into solitary threads. Stories about the big bloom, the afterglow, the drift, might become myths because evidence recedes. You feel a tender urgency to learn while the sky still speaks, to whisper what you learn into recordings, into children, into whoever comes after. But tonight, urgency is softened. The tug-of-war is slow, generous with pauses. You let gravity and expansion braid through your breathing. Inhale, stretch, exhale, hold. The rhythm calms you, like rocking in a hammock tied between two trees, one leaning outward, one inward, both supporting your sway. Science can be a hammock too, firm in its knots, flexible in its arcs. Somewhere in this gentle contest hides the next question. If every point may claim the center, how do you choose where to stand? If all lanterns drift, what makes any one a hub? You turn your face toward that thought, eyes half closed, wondering how a universe without a throne still lets you feel at home in your own small corner. You realize the answer may be that centers are made, not found, defined by stories, by frames of reference, by relationships of pull and push. The Milky Way can be your center tonight, simply because you anchor your narrative there. Tomorrow, a cluster can hold that role. In equations, no spot is special. In hearts, every hearth is. This realization drifts you closer to sleep, where edges blur and middles widen, and you are free to choose softness over certainty. So you curl inward, not to retreat, but to feel the local gravity of your own body, a miniature cluster of thoughts and cells holding itself against the universal swell. Your pulse is a bound orbit, your temperature a kept promise against the night's cool. Outside, galaxies recede. Inside, molecules whisper, enzymes fold, neurons fire. Two scales, two currents, one being. The harmony is not an accident. It is a possibility the universe allowed when it chose to be uneven, just enough to spark stars and questions. Let that spark guide you across the next threshold, where questions about place melt into questions about perspective. If anywhere can be the middle, then perhaps middle is a feeling, a warmth, a belonging, a frame you carry. You open your hand and let the lanterns drift, confident that drifting does not mean losing, only changing distance. The current will keep moving, you will keep asking, and softly, without hurry, you lean toward the mystery of centers that are everywhere at once. You pause, letting the floor steady beneath your feet, and something curious happens. The universe swells in every direction at once, yet you do not feel a push. You take a step, 2 steps, spin slowly in place, and the distant galaxies still drift away with the same quiet insistence. Nothing you do changes the grand view. The pattern of recession remains centered on you. It feels, for a heartbeat, as if you must be standing on a pedestal at the heart of everything. But then you remember a simple, liberating thought. Everyone, everywhere, can feel exactly the same. Center is a feeling, not a location. Like standing in a field of tall grass, you always see the tips bending away from where you are. Move 10 paces, the vista repeats. In cosmology's language, the universe is homogeneous and isotropic on large scales, uniform in makeup, the same in all directions. In bedtime language, the sky treats every watcher like its favorite child, giving the same wide embrace, no matter where that child curls up to gaze. You test the idea the way a child tests a pond's ice, tapping with the stick of imagination. Suppose you teleport to a galaxy 10 billion light years away. When you look out, you again find galaxies receding, Hubble's law humming through the redshifts. No cosmic hub reveals itself there either. The math draws expansion lines radiating from any chosen origin, just as circles on graph paper look centered wherever you place your compass point. Geometry is generous like that. Think of raisin bread again, but this time shrink yourself to a crumb buried somewhere inside. As the dough rises, raisins part from you on every side. If you jump crumb-sized distances, the pattern holds. There is no special raisin with less motion, no privileged crumb kept at the oven's stationary middle. The dough does not expand from a spot, it expands from itself. So does spacetime. Your senses, trained for rooms and roads, crave an anchor, a throne, a lighthouse, a fixed pole. Yet on a sphere, every point can claim south is below, north above, and all be right within their tiny patch. Sailors once argued whose map was truest. Then they learned to project, to translate curves onto flat paper without demanding that paper be the truth. You, too, must learn to project onto metaphors you can hold without mistaking them for the cosmos itself. Imagine a balloon again, not as a toy, but as an analogy with a whisper of warning. Ants crawl on its surface, convinced the skin is all there is. Each ant measures distances to crumbs of sugar, finds them growing, infers an expansion centered on itself. Yet no ant is wrong. Their two-dimensional world has no center on the surface, though the balloon has a center in the higher space the ants cannot access. Our universe may or may not have such a hidden embedding. It does not matter for the ant's physics. It may not matter for ours. You feel relief in this. You need not hunt for a capital of existence. No coordinates are crowned. The cosmic web is a network without a palace, a village of filaments where every intersection hosts its own fire. Your fire is as valid as any. You can warm your hands without apologizing for where you stand. Still, some subtleties flicker. On truly vast scales, uniformity reigns, but on human scales, clumps and voids break the spell. You live inside a galaxy, inside a group, inside a filament. These structures give you a local sense of here, a gravitational hearth. That hearth can feel like a center because gravity pulls you inward, gathering you with neighbors, shaping orbits and tides. So two centers coexist, the emotional, local one carved by gravity, and the conceptual, universal one diffused everywhere. Let that duality rock your local warmth, global sameness, like a cradle that swings side to side while the whole ship moves forward on the sea. You can love your particular corner and still belong to the everywhere. Use light as your ruler again. Light takes time, horizons form. The observable universe is a sphere around you, defined by how far light has reached since the beginning. To you, that sphere centers on your eyes. To someone in a galaxy you barely detect, their sphere centers on theirs. Each observer sits within a personal bubble of visibility, and all bubbles overlap. There is no contradiction, only perspective. This is the illusion of center. The mind maps visibility onto importance. What you can see feels like all there is. What you see moving away from you seems to move away from you specifically. But distance dilates time, and time hides truth. Galaxies out there do not know you exist. They are not fleeing you. They are adrift with you on a shared swell. You draw a breath, and the air fills every lung cell equally. None of your cells sits. At the center of the inhale, all partake. Expansion is like that breath, global, impartial, soft. If you focus on one alveolus, it may feel central, but the body cares about the whole. The universe, too, inhales evenly on its largest scales, even if the small bronchioles of matter form intricate trees inside. Relativity adds another layer to the lullaby. There is no absolute rest, no master clock, no single now stretched across the entire cosmos. Each observer knits together space and time differently, slicing the fabric at a slightly different angle to define their present. Because of that, what counts as simultaneous events for you will not match a distant galaxy's timeline. So even the question, where is the center right now, dissolves now itself, is regional, like weather. Feel how that dissolving creates calm, not chaos. If no throne exists, no one can be dethroned. If no absolute now is forced, you can be gentle with your own pace. Cosmic democracy at bedtime, each perspective valid, none ruling. You consider how maps fooled earlier minds. Ptolemy drew Earth-centered cosmoses. Copernicus moved the hub to the sun. Then came a broader shift, the realization that the Milky Way is not central, that our group is but a suburb, our filament just one thread. Each demotion felt like loss until we learned to see it as liberation, freedom from needing the sky to revolve around us. Freedom to belong without being singled out. Let that liberation seep in. To not be the center is to be safe from the pressure of importance. To be a center is to be dignified without burden. You are the axis of your own experience. That is enough. Visualize a grid painted on spacetime, moving coordinates that stretch with expansion. In that grid, every galaxy sits roughly still, like flags sewn to fabric. The fabric stretches, the flags separate. No flag is special, yet. If you switch to physical coordinates measuring actual meters, you compute recession speeds that rise with distance. Different coordinates, different stories. Neither lies, each sings a part. This is how physics hums you to sleep, by reminding you that description is choice. And choice can be kind. You taste a question lingering like honey on the spoon. If no point is central, could there be other universes where different points pretend the same? Could our bubble be one foam bead among countless others, each within, all floating in a sea? Our equations only hint at. The notion tickles, not to distract but to widen your pillow of wonder. Before you drift that far, anchor one last idea. The map of the cosmic microwave background shows a tiny dipole one side, slightly warmer. One cooler because our galaxy is moving relative to that ancient light. We do have motion, a peculiar velocity through the background's rest frame. But that frame is not a throne. It is a convenient reference, like calling the ocean level 0 height. Convenience is not coronation, so you forgive yourself for feeling central sometimes. Your senses evolved in caves and forests, not in voids and filaments. They draw circles around your body by instinct. When the night tells you every point is the middle, your bones still whisper, "But here is where I hurt, here is where I love." Both voices are true. Pain and love are local phenomena with universal relevance. Let your eyelids sag as you hold both truths, the illusion and the insight. Edgelessness paired with everywhereness. A horizon that hugs you personally and yet copies itself around all watchers. Perspective as a lantern, shifting the shadows but not the walls. You begin to hear another question padding in on quiet feet. If there is no single center, could there be many centers of reality, many bubbles, each with its own fabric, its own laws? What if our cosmos is one foam globule in a larger ferment? The thought does not rush you. It floats, a bubble rising in thick batter, round and delicate, ready to touch your nose and burst into a new scent. You turn toward it slowly, thanking this chapter for its gentle demotion. Its kind reminder that being ordinary is a kind of cosmic kindness. You lie still, and the universe expands around you. You move, and the view remains the same. No throne, no hub, just the soft assurance that wherever you are, you can call it center and not be wrong, while knowing everyone else can too. Your breath sinks with that fairness. Inhale, I am the middle. Exhale, so is everything. Sleep gathers at the edge of your thoughts. The fabric hums, impartial and warm. You loosen your grip on the need to locate privilege, and in the loosening, you feel lighter, more buoyant, ready to drift into the next possibility. So gently, you let that buoyancy lift you toward a wider speculation. Perhaps the fabric you trust is just one sheet in a stack, one bubble in a foam, one note in a chord. Imagine soda fizzing in a glass. Each sphere a world where ant-sterned astronomers also argue about centers that are nowhere. Picture: sea foam on a midnight shore, bubbles touching, separating, popping, forming a nooch with its own thin skin of rules. You cannot see them from here, but the idea is soft enough to rest you rather than alarm you, like distant thunder muffled by rain. You have not sailed there yet. You only watch the possibility glimmer at the horizon of thought, like a lighthouse, whose beam reaches you every few heartbeats. The beam says, there might be more. You answer, half asleep, I will come see, slowly. And with that promise, you let the current carry you, edgeless, centerless, into the foam's imagined glow. You feel curiosity rise like mist, thin, cool, shimmering above quiet waters tonight. No throne to bow to, no compass to obey, just bubbles, perhaps, beyond this one. You turn your face toward that soft fizzing possibility, ready to drift from centerlessness into the gentle question of other worlds. You lie very still and let the previous question fizz inside you. If no point is the center, could there be other points entirely sealed away, untouchable? The thought arrives. Like a soft carbonated sip, tiny spheres of wonder rising through a dark glass. What if this universe, with all its galaxies and laws and lullabies, is only one bubble trembling in a vast, invisible foam? You do not need to see the other bubbles to feel the gentle pressure of the idea against your skin. Foam is a forgiving image. It is messy and beautiful at once, cells of air hugging, splitting, merging around each other, each thin wall glistening under light. Translate air to spacetime, translate hardness of war to difference of law, and you have a metaphor worth resting inside. Your bubble has gravity shaped like this, electromagnetism tuned like that, particles arranged in this sparse alphabet. Another bubble might hum with different constants, different equations, different possibilities for stars to burn and stories to form. Inflation. Theory was the first to slip a straw into your cup and blow. In those earliest instants, right after the cosmic bloom began, space-time may have expanded faster than fast exponentially, outrageously like dough meeting too much yeast. In such a model, inflation does not stop everywhere at once. It ends locally, leaving pockets where space slows, cools, and births universes like yours. Yet inflation continues elsewhere, eternally spawning pocket after pocket, bubble after bubble, each beginning with its own quantum shiver. Do you need mathematics to feel this? Not tonight. It is enough to sense the flavor, a mechanism that naturally overflows, that never quite turns off, that leaves tiny sealed realms to drift apart forever, their walls expanding faster than any traveler could chase. You and your questions remain inside your bubble, hearing only your own echo. The other echoes never arrive. You graze the border of philosophy, tasting the anthropic principle like a hint of vanilla. Perhaps you can ask, why do our laws allow stars, carbon, water, nerves? One answer, gentle and controversial, whispers that bubbles without such friendly recipes simply do not grow anything able to ask. You find yourself in a bubble that permits you, not because it was chosen, but because, if it did not, you would not be here to notice. Selection by survivability, not preference. It is a humbling lullaby and surprisingly sweet on the tongue. Still, humility can coexist with awe. Imagine constants sliding like dials. Turn gravity a shade stronger and stars burn too fast. A shade weaker and clouds never collapse. Tweak the charge of the electron, the mass of the quark, the speed of light, and chemistry writes a different poem, maybe no poem at all. In the foam picture, every dial setting might appear somewhere, most producing silence, a few producing music. You live in a musical bubble, and you hum along. Some physicists propose other multiverse flavors, quantum many worlds, where every measurement branches reality like a tree of sleeping cats. Brain cosmologies, where our universe is a membrane, floating in higher dimensional space, occasionally brushing neighbors and sparking big bangs like fireflies kissing. String landscapes with valleys of vacuum energy, trillions upon trillions of low-energy solutions sprinkled through mathematical wilderness. You do not need to master these menus. You only need to taste the possibility that variety is not a flaw, but a feature. Plurality does not have to shatter peace. Think of a night sky filled with fireflies in a meadow. You can love the one flickering near your hand while knowing countless others glow deeper in the grass. Your awe expands, but your intimacy remains. This chapter invites that kind of dual attention. The foam and the bubble, both tender in their scale. Consider boundaries now. In a glass of foam, walls meet, share edges, swap air. In a multiverse foam, boundaries might be inflating walls, where space itself races outward so fast that no signal can cross. A collision, if it happened early, might leave a faint circular bruise in the microwave backgrounder, cold or hot spot, like a fingerprint pressed against our sky. Teams have searched the map for such scars. So far, hints are whispers, controversies, maybe dust, maybe noise. Yet the search continues, like listening for a faint knock in a noisy house. Hopeful but careful, you smile at that persistence. Science hummed you through the last chapters with solid measurements, tight equations. Here it becomes softer-edged, more contingent, but still honest. Hypotheses are lullabies too, as long as they end with sleep now, answers later instead. Of shouting certainty, you curl into that honesty, warmed by it. If other bubbles exist, can you ever visit? Almost certainly not. The wall between would stretch faster than any ship, any beam, any thought could cross. Travel becomes a word for stories, not for plans. And yet, your mind hops the wall easily, using metaphor as a passport. That is its gift. To roam where feet and photons cannot. You let foam shift into another image bread again, but this time a loaf full of tunnels, some connecting, some sealed, or a coral reef of chambers, each with its own water temperature, its own fish. The reef thrives as a whole, though no fish swims them all. You are a fish in one chamber, sensing currents, singing your bubbles, trusting the reef extends. Perhaps plurality is also personal. Inside you, countless micro-universes exist, cells with their rules, organelles with their clocks, proteins folding landscapes like miniature energy foams. Your conscious self navigates one thin slice of all those happenings. That fractal echo comforts you, the macroverse, reflecting in the microverse. Not by exact law, but by pattern, pockets within pockets, rules within rules, emergence nestled in emergence, foam outside, foam inside. Gently you wonder about endings. do bubbles last forever? Maybe some collapse, recollapsing into dense knots where physics rewrites itself. Maybe others fade as their energy thins, leaving only particles drifting in infinite night. Our bubble appears destined to expand and cool, its lanterns dimming, its background chilling toward absolute zero. Yet even that is a story within a greater foam where other tales ignite. A small question taps. If we cannot test other bubbles, should we speak of them at all? Your answer is drowsy but clear. Stories stretch possibility, and some possibilities guide experiments indirectly. Eternal inflation, for instance, predicts certain statistical properties in our sky. The absence or presence of patterns can nudge belief. Science builds bridges from imagination back to measurement, even if some spans remain mist-shrouded. Mist is fine tonight. You are here to feel held, not hold. The foam model holds you by making isolation less lonely. If your universe is one among many, then even emptiness participates in community. It is a wider cradle, not a colder one. You track your breath again. Tiny bubbles forming in your lungs, alveoli, exchanging gases, sustaining quiet life. Billions of those bubbles pop and reform every minute, unnoticed. You notice now, and the noticing is a lullaby of connection. Breath bubble, universe bubble, foam everywhere, scales sliding like octaves. Listen, the next chapter waits. Whispering of space without space, of before the loom, before distance, of what it means to expand from less than nothing. Foam prepared you for plurality. Now you tilt toward absence, toward the question of what outside means, if even. Bubbles float in no larger bath we can define. For now, you float. The foam holds, your bubble glows. Possibility murmurs along the walls like tide against a shell. You press your ear and hear not a single ocean, but an orchestra of seas, each playing its own tempo. Each unaware of the others, yet together composing. Something grander than any riddle you can phrase before sleep takes you. So you let your thoughts add quieter bubbles to the foam. Universes where time loops like a bracelet. Universes crystallized and static. Universes that blink out after a heartbeat. Universes blooming into dimensions you cannot picture without twisting your tongue. Some might be sparse, one particle per eternity. Others might flash with fields you will never name, forces braided differently, symmetries broken in unfamiliar ways. Most will never know themselves. A few might cradle eyes and questions, their wonders curling like steam over midnight tea. Imagination is not proof, but it is rehearsal. By rehearsing, you prepare to greet whatever hint reality chooses to send. You become supple, ready to bend, without breaking when data arrives like a wave at midnight. And if the wave never comes, you still slept well wrapped in maybe. The foam fades as your lids fall. Edges liquefy, horizons soften, and you drift between the curves of possibility. You carry one sentence forward like a smooth pebble tucked in your palm. Perhaps everything is only a part of everything else. That pebble will tap the next door, the one that opens onto the question of how something can expand when there was no there to hold it. You breathe and follow the whisper, and let the dark invite the next, smaller nothing to open in. That invitation rests a doorway you have not yet named, a hush before space itself is born. You drift closer, closer still, closer. Foam dissolves into fog, bubbles into breath, and you lean toward the hush before space has shape, ready to feel how something can rise from less than nothing at all. You begin by removing distance from your mind. Number, steps to count, no gaps to cross, no points to connect. Imagine closing your eyes and finding not darkness, but absence, no room, no scale, no near or far. Before expansion, the cosmos is not a small ball tucked somewhere. It is a condition without coordinates, a hush without anywhere to echo. You are not outside it, because there is no outside. You are not inside it, because inside has not yet been invented. So what, then, is expansion? Not a balloon invading, surrounding air, not dough pressing against a kitchen stillness. Expansion is the birth of between, the sudden permission for separation to exist. Space does not push outward, it unfolds inward, from potential to presence, like a thought growing into a sentence, like a breath becoming wind. It comes from less, not into more. You float in that paradox the way a seed floats in a quiet pond, weightless, waiting. The seed does not move until water exists to cradle it. Likewise, the first instants of the universe are not journeys through a hallway. They are the hallway appearing round the traveler. Movement is a later luxury. Becoming comes first. Physicists talk about the Planck era, a sliver of a moment so brief that time itself barely clears its throat 10 to the minus 43rd seconds. A number that feels like sand slipping faster than thought. At that scale, our mathematics shivers. Quantum foam burbles, gravity refuses to behave classically. And spacetime may not be a smooth sheet at all, but a froth of possibilities flickering in and out. You, rocking in your bed, do not need each equation tonight. You need the feeling. Order condenses out of jitter. A rulebook inks itself as the game begins. Picture a loom before the first thread is pulled. The frame stands, but the cloth is not yet stretched. Then, with one motion, the first strand is drawn tight, anchoring. Future weaves. That first strand is the metric of space, the rule that lets you measure, compare, orient. Expansion is the frame being set under tension. Creating a canvas, every later thread will occupy another image. Dough again, but this time imagine the yeast waking inside powder. Before the waking, there is no rise to speak of flour and yeast. Touch, yet nothing swells. Then warmth arrives. Molecules wriggle. Carbon dioxide gathers in pockets, and suddenly there is more where flat had reigned. No oven wall dictates the dough's growth. The chemistry inside does. Expansion of the universe is chemistry of geometry and internal rule, causing more room to happen. Inflation, the idea of a blisteringly fast, exponential growth right after the universe's birth, serves as the narrative's accepted. It smooths wrinkles, irons curvature, spreads tiny quantum jitters across cosmic scales. Imagine blowing a speck of dust into a fog bank with a single, gentle puff. That speck becomes structure. That fog becomes the evenness you now measure in the microwave background. Inflation is not speed through space. It is space herself multiplying, like a rumor told to every point at once. Before inflation ends, there is effectively no outside to it. It is everywhere, like a note filling a room so fully that asking where the note is misses the music. When inflation relaxes, reheating pours energy into the newborn fabric, and particles swarm like fresh snowflakes in a widening storm. From that moment on, here and there have meaning, because light can begin the long task of traveling between them. Ask yourself what it feels like for place to appear. Perhaps it is like waking up from dreamless sleep, not a story concluding and another beginning, but story itself arriving. You do not remember the moment consciousness catches. You only realize afterward that you are present. The universe's first instants are like that, a threshold crossed faster than awareness can mark. And yet everything that follows depends on that crossing. You might wonder, if there was no space, could there be energy? The equations suggest. Yes, fields can exist without classical space, in the way ideas can exist without paper. The inflattened field, hypothetical but useful, rolls down its potential, releasing expansion the way a ball releases speed rolling downhill. The hill is not somewhere yet, rather, somewhere is defined as the field changes. Again, the metaphor is soft, but tonight's softness is the point. You can also think of symmetry breaking, the universe letting go of perfect sameness to allow distinct forces to emerge. Before breaking, everything is one note. After, multiple instruments join. To have violin and drum, you must relinquish the pure tone. Space grows richer as it becomes more itself, trading uniformity for texture. In that trade, distances acquire meaning, and with meaning comes a map. No here, no there, sounds lonely until you feel its potential. A blank page is not empty when a story waits in your pen. The pre-spatial state, whatever words can point at, it holds the capacity for all distances, the way silence holds the capacity for all songs. Expansion is the moment the first note is sung, and the silence learns it can be a stage. This is why thinking of nothing as absence misleads. The nothing before space is not a hole in something else. It is not a black room, not a void you could walk through. It is a concept stretched past usefulness. Better to call it less defined, less distinct, less measurable. From less, more emerges, not by stealing from outside, but by unlocking within. Consider how children learn the idea of distance. At first, the world is simply reachable or not. Gradually, meters and miles enter, rulers and road signs. The universe learned, too. In its youth, interaction was so rapid that distance was meaningless. When cooling slowed the chatter, separation mattered. At that moment, rulers clicked into place, and light began to record. Light is the archivist of space. Without paths to trace, it cannot write history. The instant space becomes, light starts writing, and the first sentence we still read is the cosmic microwave background. Earlier chapters exist, but the ink bled. We cannot make out the letters yet, so we reconstruct with math, with particle physics, with the hints left in later pages. Ask gently, what is expanding now? Not galaxies pushing off, not stars making room. It is the metric recipe for distance that evolves. General relativity encodes that recipe in Einstein's equations. Matter tells spacetime how to curve. Spacetime tells matter how to move. When the average density changes, the recipe adjusts, like a cook tasting and adding more water to a simmering stew. Dark energy complicates the flavor further, adding a constant term that keeps the broth thinning even as ingredients fall away. You rest your cheek on the pillow and feel how your own body emerged from less egote to embryo to infant, not by moving through pre-built rooms, but by creating new structures as it grew. Growth is internal architecture unfolding, not migration. In that sense, you are cosmological. Your space, your bones, blood vessels, neural pathways expanded from a state of less, guided by rules in your DNA, the way the universe expanded, following equations in its fields. So, when you drift through the thought space without space, you are practicing empathy with the cosmos. You are remembering how becoming precedes motion. You are letting go of the need to picture corridors and instead feeling the birth of corridors as a quiet miracle. Visuals help, but tonight feeling may be kinder than picturing. Still, give yourself one last picture. Imagine a sheet of paper with no ink. Now imagine the notion of line existing without being drawn. Expansion is the pencil touching down, tracing the first faint stroke that future shapes will reference. The paper did not gain area, the concept gained expression. Once the first line is drawn, others can be measured relative to it. That is how distance awakens. You breathe in, and with the breath, you allow mystery to sit without urgency. There may be deeper layers, quantum gravity weaving spacetime from tiny loops, strings vibrating to birth dimensions, holographic principles stating that volume is information painted on a distant screen. These are beautiful possibilities, but you do not need to solve them now. You only need to know that from less is allowed, that the universe is comfortable conjuring stage and actors together. Outside your window, night holds steady. Inside your mind, definitions soften. You are less concerned with labels, more with textures, smoothness, froth, silence, note. The chapter's pulse slows, matching your own, as if to remind you that comprehension can be somatic. You understand, because your breath copies the pattern. Soon you will reach another threshold, the horizon of what can be seen, even when space exists. Not all of it is available. Light needs time. Time is finite. Horizons appear. The universe without space became a universe with space. Now you will meet a universe with limits in sight, veils where vision stops, not by wall, but by youth. You turn toward that veil the way you turn toward sleep, curious, heavy-lidded, unafraid. For now, let the thought settle. Nothing needed holding. Space did not spill into a bigger bowl. The bowl appeared with the soup, flavor, and vessel twin-born. You sip that warmth, and with the last swallow, you feel a question cooling on your tongue. How far can you see across this new bowl, and what hums beyond the rim your eyes can never cross? Perhaps you picture a shoreline drawn in light, not a cliff, but a fading, a place where waves of photons simply have not arrived yet. Beyond that hush, space may continue serenely, but for you it is storyless night. Limits, then, are libraries. Still closed, aisles unlit, books unwritten for your eyes. For now, you wait softly. You keep that question like a firefly cupped in gentle hands, its glow a promise rather than a demand. The room is quiet, the fabric is woven, the thread of time pulls softly. You are ready to follow it to the edge of sight. A horizon is forming, not a wall, but a place where light has yet to speak. You turn toward that dim shoreline, listening for what cannot reach you yet, and drift, slow and curious, toward the veil that hides the rest. You sit inside a sphere. You cannot feel, a bubble not of glass but of time. Its surface is stitched from the oldest light that has managed, so far, to reach your eyes. You call it the observable universe. Though the phrase hides a softness, observable means touched by photons, not all that exists. Beyond that luminous skin, more may stretch, curl, loop, or end in ways you cannot test tonight. You rest with that uncertainty like a cat at the edge of a dark hallway, ears forward, body calm. A horizon is not a barricade. It is a limit of arrival. On Earth, the sea meets the sky in a line that slides away as you walk. The ocean does not stop where your vision does. In space, Light is the water, time the curvature, and your horizon the place where the oldest waves finally lap at your shore. Move, wait, measure, the line shifts, but it never becomes a wall you can touch. It remains an agreement between distance and duration. A contract signed in photons. You learned earlier that expansion stretches light, lengthening its wavelength, lowering its pitch. That stretching also lengthens time's echo. Photons launched billions of years ago arrive tired, redder, their energy diluted by the growth of space. Some never make it. They are stranded on currents that outrun them. Beyond a certain distance, recession speeds exceed light's fleeing pace. Not because galaxies break cosmic speed limits, but because the road is rolling backward faster than their beams can cross it. Those regions drift beyond causal contact, forever, sliding into a darkness you can name but never know. So your horizon is double. One line marks how far light has had time to travel since the beginning, the particle horizon. Another marks how far light will ever reach you in the future, given accelerating expansion, the event horizon. Between them, a theater of the knowable unfolds. Some scenes already played, some scheduled to arrive, others cancelled by the widening gap. You float in that theater, audience and actor entwined. Feel the tenderness of delayed revelations. When you gaze at a galaxy 10 billion light-years away, you see its childhood, not its current shape. The cosmos sends you postcards from its past, never a live broadcast. The deeper you look, the younger everything appears. Your horizon is thus a time limit as much as a distance. You cannot see beyond 380,000 years after the first bloom, because before that, light could not travel freely. The cosmic microwave background is the earliest picture you can ever receive with photons. Beyond it lies a fog, not because nothing was there, but because everything was too hot to let light through. Neutrinos, those ghostly particles, streamed out earlier, at about 1 second after the beginning. Their background bathes the cosmos. Too colder now, harder to detect, but in principle it carries whispers from deeper infancy. Gravitational waves, ripples in space-time itself, could have launched even earlier, vibrating through the fabric when photons were still caged. One day, perhaps, detectors sensitive enough will read that older script, extending your horizon backward by listening not to light, but to tremors in the loom. Horizons shift when you change which messenger you trust. Even so, some veils may never lift. The Planck wall, the scale where quantum gravity dominates, may forever blur details of the very first instance. You accept that blur. Soft edges are often kinder than sharp ones when sleep is near. The unknown can hum like a lullaby if you let it. Remember the dip in the microwave map you heard about, the cold spot. The odd blotch some wondered might be a bruise from a colliding bubble universe. It might be a statistical fluke, a quirk of random ripples. It might be dust. It might, in a story you cannot confirm, be a gentle knock from another cosmos against the membrane of ours. The horizon hides certainty, but invites imagination. Science plays here carefully, using probability as a spoon, stirring possibilities without spilling into fantasy's lap. Hubble's law turns into a horizon equation when you watch it long enough. Recession speed scales with distance. Somewhere, the product exceeds light. That somewhere is not a border you can cross, but an invisible threshold where communication dies of exhaustion. Try to shout across it with any signal, and expansion will stretch your message until it freezes into silence, never to be heard. You live inside a conversational bubble, your voice strong within, muffled at the edges, erased beyond. You might ask, does the universe end beyond my seeing? The honest answer is a shrug wrapped in respect. Inflationary models hint that space could be vastly larger, possibly infinite. Topology games suggest it could wrap like a torus, making far-off light loop back. But your horizon prevents you from knowing which, unless subtle signatures reveal themselves within your reach. The rest hums, on either endless or edged, neither proven. You become comfortable with maybe. Comfort is a skill here. Let your breathing match the slow drift of comprehension. Inhale, I do not know. Exhale, I do not have to. Each exhale relaxes a muscle that wanted certainty. The horizon is not an insult. It is a kindness, saving you from drowning in totality. You are offered a bowl-sized portion of the cosmos, enough to savor, not to choke. Think of sailors again. Before satellites, they read stars to guess where land might lie. Fog, limited sight, instinct, and pattern filled gaps. They accepted that the ocean could extend far beyond sight and still charted a course. You are a sailor under cosmic fog. Data is your sextant, theory your map, humility your raft. You chart anyway. Bring back the raisin bread. In that expanding loaf, imagine an ant measuring crumbs, tracing lines. They calculate a finite horizon due to rising dough. The loaf might be finite, but the ant cannot know until scent or structure hints at a crust. Or the loaf might be baking in an endless kitchen. Either way, the ant's next crumb-finding expedition occurs within reach. So it is with you. Measure what you can, let what you cannot recede without guilt. You may wonder how the horizon will change. As time passes, you see more light from one's hidden regions arrives. The particle horizon grows, but dark energy ensures an event horizon shrinks in terms of what will ever be visible. Fewer new regions will enter your communicable world. Imagine a distant lantern drifting just within view, then slowly dimming, not because it turns off, but because its light never keeps up with the gap. One day, extragalactic astronomy may become impossible for distant descendants. Their sky will tighten to local stars, and history will be a legend kept in brittle archives. This makes your era precious. You live in a window where the horizon is generous, where the microwave glow is measurable, where thousands of galaxies paint deep fields on your telescopes. Gratitude tinges your drowsiness. You are awake at a cosmic dawn of understanding, late enough for evidence, early enough for reach. Hold that fortune gently, as you would a fragile fossil still in the rock. Now, recall that horizons also reside in gravity's hold. Black holes where event horizons like cloaks, surfaces beyond which escape fails. There too, not a wall, but a boundary of return applies. Once crossed inward, signals cannot climb back out. Horizons within horizons, personal, galactic, cosmic. The theme repeats like a refrain, soothing in its continuity. Limits shape stories. Without them, plots dissolve. The cosmic horizon is kinder than a black hole's. It does not crush, it simply withholds. You can approach it only by waiting, and time will always run out first. That tenderness lets you sleep near it without fear. The veil is not malevolent, it is merely late. Light is late because time is finite. You are part of that finitude. Your own horizon of memory hides most of your life's early days in mist. Yet you live well enough with fragments, photos, lullabies your parents hummed. The universe, like a parent, offers you lullabies of microwave hiss, deep field mosaics, spectra of ancient stars. You piece yourself from these. You feel whole enough. Imagine you could ride a photon from the horizon inward, passing through billions of years in a few heartbeats. You would see galaxies assemble, collide, settle, planets condense, cool, molecules discover complexity. Someone on a blue world puzzle over expansion before sleep. Then you'd arrive here to you and dissolve into warmth on your skin. Horizons are relational. They end where you receive. You are the harbor, the photon is the ship, the horizon the last port it left. One more metaphor, a library where new books arrive daily from distant authors, but mail takes eon. Shelves fill slowly. Some writers live so far their books will never arrive. The library remains incomplete, but each volume enriches the mosaic. You are a librarian with infinite patience, cataloging arrivals, guessing at missing chapters, content. To read what you have allowed at bedtime, the unknown hums. Listen, it is not silence, but a low chorus of possibilities. Does the universe curve back, or does it stretch forever? Are there domains with different physics beyond what you can see? Is space finite like a song, or infinite like a silence that never ends? You hum back, not to drown it out, but to harmonize. Harmonic unknowns lead you to the next question. If light can only tell you so much, how else can you measure what lies beyond? Perhaps with gravity's waves, with neutrino whispers, with clever statistics that infer the whole from a part. Perhaps by noticing how dark energy shapes the horizon's future. Perhaps by accepting that some answers will be aesthetic choices, until new data knocks. You feel yourself leaning toward that gentle push you sensed earlier, the strange energy in emptiness that decides how far the veil will ever lift. Dark energy, you taste the term like chocolate melting, a sweetness you have not fully passed. It is the driver of distance you cannot outrun, the reason some regions slip forever away. To understand your horizon is to ask about that push. What is it? Why is it there? How does it keep stretching the fabric long after matter thins? The veil you've traced with light is stitched, in part, by this invisible tailor. You yawn, a long coil of breath unspooling. The horizon bends with you. Somewhere, photons continue their marathon. Somewhere, galaxies recede just beyond talk. Somewhere, the unknown hums, not to frighten, but to cradle your curiosity in soft dark. You turn on your side, facing the next chapter's doorway, which glows faintly with questions about that gentle acceleration, that pressure with no fingers. You have walked to the edge of sight and found it patient, not punitive. You have learned to live with a line that moves as you wait, to love a universe whose total shape is hidden. You have taken comfort in what arrives and kindness in what does not. This is enough for now, enough to rest, enough to wonder. Close your eyes. The veil remains, but so does your hunger to peer through it. That hunger is the bridge to what comes next. It will carry you, softly, into the realm where nothing pushes, where emptiness is active, where the darkness between lanterns is not dead space, but living force. You breathe once more, slow, steady. The unknown hums just beyond your seeing, and you hum back, ready to follow the sound into deeper quiet. A veil of distance, woven from time and light, lingers at your edge of sight, and behind it, a quiet pressure keeps pulling the fabric. Wider, you turn toward that unseen hand, wondering how emptiness itself can push. You sit with the question like a shell against your ear. How do you measure a breath that has no lungs, no lips, no edge to purse against. The universe inhales without a chest, exhales without a sound, yet the fabric widens, soft and steady. You keep still, and tools become extensions of your listening. Glass, metal, silicon tilted toward, night count tiny changes in color, temperature, and timing. Measurement, here, is the art of noticing almost nothings and stitching them into a map of everything. First comes redshift, the quiet reddening of light as space stretches beneath it. A galaxy's spectrum slides toward longer wavelengths, like music slowing half a beat per bar. Fraunhofer lines those thin, dark fingerprints of element shift positions, telling you how fast the space between you and that galaxy has grown. Edwin Hubble read those shifts like a pulse, finding his law, recessional velocity proportional to distance. You read it now like a lullaby, refrain simple, repetitive, gently true across the wide dark. But redshift is more than movement. It is metric change. You remember the raisin bread, the dough swelling. Redshift is the raisin's color drifting warm because the dough pulled their wavelengths wider. You hold the metaphor lightly, knowing the real math hums deeper. Scale factors, a T growing with time. Yet you feel the meaning in your palm. Light stretched means space stretched. Space stretched means the breath continues. Then there is the cosmic microwave background, that even hush of ancient warmth. Satellites measure its temperature to 1 part in a million. You imagine running your fingers over a blanket and feeling bumps smaller than a thread's thickness. Those bumps minuscule anisotropism code, the universe's first acoustic chords. Power spectra plot their peaks. From peak heights and separations, you infer total matter, dark matter, baryons, curvature. A whole recipe from a whisper of warmth. You smile at the delicacy. Astronomers listening for silence, expanding, inferring structure from the quietest hiss. Standard candles brighten the dark. Type Ia supernova white dwarfs push to carbon detonation flare with nearly uniform luminosity. Measure apparent brightness, subtract intrinsic, and distance falls out like a soft number into your hand. In the late 20th century, those candles revealed dimmer than expected light. Galaxies farther than Hubble's simple tune predicted. The breath was accelerating. Dark energy was added to the score, a baseline you do not hear directly but feel in the rhythm of separation. Standard rulers stand beside the candles. Baryon acoustic oscillations, those frozen sound wave ripples from the early plasma live. A preferred clustering scale imprinted in galaxy distributions today. About 150 megaparsecs wide, a faint ring of more likely separation. Surveys. Count pairs of galaxies, find the bump in statistics, and use that ruler to track the universe's growth. A cosmic yardstick, carved in infancy, still reliable in adulthood. You consider lenses' gravity's bend on light. Mass warps, spacetime, straight paths curve. Strong lensing draws arcs and Einstein rings around heavy clusters, letting you weigh the invisible scaffolding. Dark matter halos cupping galaxies like hands. Weak lensing, subtler, smears galaxy shapes ever so slightly. Statistical shear maps the cosmic web, tracing how matter clumps, how expansion and gravity braid. You picture space as a soft sheet, galaxies as sequins pulled by hidden threads. Lensing shows where the threads tug. Time itself measures. Clocks tick differently in gravity wells. GPS satellites whisper corrections to stay true. Cosmologists time the delay between multiple lensed quasar images, turning light echo differences into distance ladders. Pulsar Timing. Arrays listen for gravitational waves stretching time between radio heartbeats. Even atom interferometers feel Earth's pull to absurd precision. Measurement multiplies, different senses, same breath. You learn about cosmic chronometers, whose stellar populations age passively, serving as clocks. Compare spectra at different redshifts. Estimate how much time elapsed between their formation and now. And you derive Hc, the expansion rate at various epochs. It is like reading tree rings in starlight, reconstructing seasons of cosmic growth. Silence can be data. The lack of spectral distortions in the microwave background limits how much early energy injection occurred. The absence of certain lines constrains warm dark matter. The quiet of the cosmic neutrino background, barely above absolute zero, confirms a relic sea of ghostly particles, decoupled seconds after the beginning. What you do not hear is as telling as what you do. You let statistics cradle you. No single galaxy, supernova, or quasar tells the whole story. Patterns emerge when millions of data points hum together. Correlation functions, likelihood contours, Markov chains, sampling parameter spaces, these become lullaby rhythms. Plots with ellipses shrinking over decades show humanity's grip tightening gently on omega_m. Omega_lambda, h_0. You watch those ellipses and feel a communal breath, countless minds, countless nights, coaxing clarity from noise. Friction appears, tensions between methods. Local measurements of h_0 using Kifids and supernova whisper 73 kilometers per second per megaparsec. Early universe inference from the microwave background murmurs near 67. A gap remains. Perhaps systematics hide. Perhaps new physics waits. Instead of panic, you let the discord be a harmony's prompt, like jazz inviting a fresh note. The breath teaches you. Measurement is process, not decree. New messengers arrive. Fast radio bursts, millisecond radio flashes from distant galaxies scatter through ionized gas. Dispersion measures trace electron density, combine with and you get another way, two-way baryons left in filaments. Gravitational waves from merging neutron stars carry standard siren distances independent of the cosmic ladder. Pair them with host galaxy redshifts, you get h_0 again, another verse. Multi-messenger astronomy is the orchestra, each instrument, adding timbre to the expanding hush. You think of calibration as care. Photometers need reference stars. Detectors need dark frames. Fiber spectrographs need flat fields. Every subtraction of noise, every correction for atmosphere or dust is an act of tenderness. Removing your own breath's fog from the glass so you can feel the universe's breath. Measurement is less about conquest than about cleaning windows. On a human scale, you practice a parallel. You measure your own breath at night, slow and steady, counting to 4 on inhale, 6 on exhale. You do not need a ruler, your body knows the rhythm. The universe is doing the same, exhaling distance, inhaling data through you. You are part of its sensing apparatus, a conscious instrument tuned to questions soften under method. How big becomes how fast growing, how old becomes how long since this photon left. Edges dissolve into integrals, shapes into parameters, borders into horizons you already visited. Measurement translates poetry into numbers, and numbers back into poetry. The loop closing gently, never harsh. You picture survey telescopes sweeping the sky. Sloan, DES, LSST. Now the Vera Rubin Observatory. Euclid, Roman. Their cameras blink enormous fields, millions of galaxies at a glance. Data lakes form, catalogs bloom, algorithms learn to spot lenses, transients, subtle shears. Humans annotate, machines assist. Together they hum, find the breath, count the stretch, map the hush. Noise is a companion. Instrument noise, sky. Noise, thermal noise, shot noise. Every kind of hiss overlays the signal. You do not banish it. You model it, befriend it. Let it confess its shape so the whisper beneath can emerge. The universe is kind that way. It leaves patterns big enough to survive the noise. If you are patient, patience too is measurement. Decades between ideas and proof, between instrument designs and first light. Children grow into scientists who follow up on papers their parents read as grad students. In cosmology, time is a collaborator. You feel a kinship with that patience as your eyelids lower, answers arriving like photons, late, red but faithful. You wonder how one measures what will never arrive. Forecasting steps in. Fisher matrices, simulated skies cosmologists predict. How well future missions can constrain parameters. It is like dreaming the clarity you will gain, then waking and building the dream's tools. Even sleep in this field is productive imagination in your mind's hand. You hold a toolkit, redshift surveys, CMB maps, lensing shear catalogs, bow rings, supernova light curves, standard sirens, FRB dispersions, galaxy cluster counts via Sunyavas. Effect, primordial element, abundances from quasar absorption lines. Each tool scratches a different surface of the same breath, like archaeologists brushing sand from a buried mosaic, tile by tile, until the picture glows dot. And then you remember, the breath you measure is not finished. Every new dataset is one. More sip of an inhale, still rising. The numbers you publish today will be footnotes to clearer ones tomorrow. Far from discouraging, that thought rocks you science as perpetual bedtime story. Each generation adding a verse. You feel your own. Hush, deepen. The universe's inhale is mirrored in your chest. Astronomers listen for expanding silence. You listen for expanding calm. Both require stillness, discipline, and a love of faint signals. Both return a reward, a sense that you are held inside something coherent, even as it grows. From here, the next question glows like a low ember. What is this gentle push you keep? Inferring the sweetness folded into empty space that makes the breath speed up. You have counted, mapped, calibrated, cross-checked. The equations point to a pressure with no fingers, an energy of nothing. Dark energy waits like chocolate unmelted, ready to flavor the next chapter. You let the toolkit rest beside your bed. Numbers can sleep now. The hush is measured. The breath is real. You pull the blanket of data to your chin, whisper thanks to telescopes, to photons, to the patience of waiting light. Your last thought is simple, almost childlike. We measured the inhale. What is making it so smooth, so steady, so sweet? You set the rulers down and taste the question that lingers, a pressure with no hand, a sweetness in the vacuum. You turn toward that invisible flavor, ready to ask why emptiness itself keeps widening the breath. You have been listening to the universe breathe in, a long, slow inhale of distance, when you notice a change in tempo. The stretch is not merely steady, it is quickening, as if the fabric has learned a new rhythm. You wait for a hand to appear, some cosmic palm pushing outward, but none comes. Instead, there is a flavor in the vacuum itself, a pressure with no fingers, a sweetness folded into emptiness, like chocolate melted through warm batter. This is dark energy, a name we give to a behavior we do not yet understand, a label pinned to acceleration so gentle it hides in plain view until the numbers sing it loud. You meet it first as a subtraction from brightness. Standard candle supernova you trusted to sing with one loud note arrive dimmer than the old score predicted. Astronomers blink, recalibrate, check dust, check bias, check pride. The dimness remains. Distances are larger than they should be if expansion was slowing under gravity alone. Something else is at work, not tugging but urging, not a rope but a cushion that swells. You turn metaphors in your mouth until one melts right. Imagine a room with walls that exhale. Objects do not push off each other. The room itself grows. And with each extra inch, the wall's breath grows stronger. Or picture interest compounding. The more space exists, the more of this strange energy fills it, and the faster the ledger of distance inflates. Exponential curves whisper their quiet inevitabilities. You feel numbers sliding up a slope you cannot flatten with will. In Einstein's equations, there was always a hook for such a thing. He called it the cosmological constant, lambda, a term that acts like a uniform energy density of space. He added it to hold the universe static, then removed it in regret when expansion was discovered. Decades later, the constant returns, not as a blunder, but as a candidate. If lambda is real, dark energy does not dilute as space grows. Its density stays the same, so total energy increases with volume. The vacuum hums with constancy, yet that very constancy writes acceleration into geometry. But the constant may not be constant. Quintessence, phantom energy, evolving fields all are whispers in theoretical halls. A scalar field rolling slowly down a potential could mimic lambda today and differ tomorrow. Equations of state parameterized by W equals PC test possibilities. W equals -1 for a true cosmological constant, W-1 for phantom, W-1 for softer pushes. Observers bind W with error bars, tightening them like a belt, but uncertainty lingers. You, drifting toward sleep, accept the possibility that the push could change key midsong. Return to feeling. Dark energy is dilute yet dominant, weak yet ruling the long game. On solar system scales, it is negligible, a whisper drowned by planets and stars. On galactic scales, gravity still wins, knitting disks and bars, bulges and halos. Only over voids and filaments does dark energy's patience show, stretching what is already stretched, prying open what gravity cannot hold. It is background bassline, maceline ever a solo up close. Always the tempo for the symphony's finale. You put your ear to the cosmic microwave background again. Subtle patterns in its polarization, in the late integrated Sachs-Wolf effect, tell you the potential wells of clusters have changed over time. As photons cross those wells, the wells decay because of acceleration. Photons gain a tiny energy boost. That boost is data, a proof that the push exists. Even light, apathetic to gravity's tug when it rides straight, cannot ignore the way the wells shallow under dark energy's insistence. Think of structure. Formation as a contest held on a moving floor. Matter clumps, gravity pulls, overdense, grow into webs. But as dark energy strengthens, the floor slides faster underfoot. Growth stalls. Filaments freeze in place, never quite reaching the heft they might have if space were lazier. The cosmos will not collapse back into a single knot. The tournament ends not with a bang, but with teams stranded on far fields, unable to rejoin. You feel that loneliness like a cool draft around your ankles and tuck your feet under the blanket. You ask how vacuum can have energy. Quantum fields do not sit at zero, even their ground state jitters. Virtual particles pop and vanish, a fizzing. At the bottom of reality, summing that fizz naively gives absurdly huge energy densities, 120 orders of magnitude larger than what cosmology infers. The worst theoretical prediction in physics, some say, a mismatch so vast it becomes a joke told in conference halls. Your smile is sleepy but sympathetic. The universe, it seems, balances on a number we cannot yet derive. A fine-tuned hush. Maybe the vacuum's energy gravitates differently than we think. Maybe gravity itself needs revision on grand scales modified. Newtonian dynamics, FR theories, extra dimensions hiding elasticity. Maybe we have mistaken a sign on the equation, or misread a whisper as a shout. You let these maybes drift like dandelion seeds. The field is young. Certainty would be premature and, more importantly, unnecessary for the comfort you seek tonight. Comfort comes from rhythm. Acceleration is not chaos. It is a smooth curve. The Hubble parameter changes carefully. The scale factor's second derivative is positive, but not panicked. You can draw the plot in your mind. A shallow bowl tipping upward, gentler than drama, firmer than rest. You trace it with a fingertip on your blanket, a private graph no one else sees. Imagine the far future. Galaxies outside your local group have already slipped beyond communication. In tens of billions of years, the night sky empties, constellations smear, cosmic archaeology becomes folklore. The microwave background redshifts 2 wavelengths larger than the observable universe itself. Its hiss turns to silence. Only the memory of expansion remains in the maths of careful historians of physics, if any remain. Dark energy turns the cosmos into an archipelago of island galaxies, each tightly locked to its own story. Yet acceleration is not theft. It does not steal your local bonds. Stars still orbit, planets still spin. Life where it sparks still knits meaning in small rooms. Dark energy writes the fate of horizons, not of hearths. You live in a pocket gravity holds, a lantern bright enough to ignore the wind outside. That thought warms you, a small fire against an expanding night. You open your hand and imagine you could feel the pressure. Lambda has units, joules per cubic meter, pascals of push. Tiny, so tiny that a single sugar cube has more energy than a cubic meter of vacuum's dark energy content. Yet the sugar cube does not fill all space, the vacuum does. Cumulative subtlety wins. Drop by drop, ocean by ocean dot. Somewhere a theorist sketches potentials, flat ones, steep ones, thawing and freezing models, tracker fields that follow matter, then dominate. Observers plan missions, Euclid, Roman, Desi designed to shave error bars. Chase W's deviation from -1, map the breathing with finer stethoscopes. You nod at their diligence, grateful that curiosity never sleeps, even if you are about to. Measurement is how love looks in science, patient, precise, willing to admit confusion. You consider entropy again, the arrow of time traced by increasing disorder. Dark energy ensures that arrow keeps lengthening, that heat death remains the likely coda. In a lambda-dominated epoch, expansion isolates pockets. Energy gradients flatten, usable work dwindles. But between now and then lies an extravagance of moments. Trillions of years of star formation in dwarf galaxies, proton decay debates, black hole evaporation whispers. Acceleration sets the far stage, but does not cancel the near play. Let your breath copy the push, soft, insistent, no need to force. Inhale gently, feel ribs expand. Exhale slowly. Space inside remains a touch wider. You are practicing dark energy at a human scale. Not a pull, a release. Not strain, yield. The more you let go, the more room arrives. Your mind returns to the thought of nothingness quickening. How can nothing quicken? Perhaps nothingness is a misnomer. The vacuum is a something with the least somethingness allowed, but still a fabric with properties. Give any fabric an elastic constant, and it will respond when stretched, either resisting or helping. Here it helps, as if negative pressure lived in its weave. Pressure that pulls inward on itself can push outward on the boundary. Ask any balloon. The universe is the boundary. The vacuum is the inward pull that causes outward growth. Analogy aside, you accept that equations carry truth beyond imagery. The stress-energy tensor of vacuum is proportional to the metric itself. Plug that into Einstein's field equations, and geometry warps in a way that yields acceleration. You could follow the math line by line, but tonight you are content to feel where each term leans. Matter curves, radiation streams, vacuum pushes, philosophy leans in, candle in hand. Is dark energy a property of reality, or a placeholder for ignorance? Will a future synthesis of quantum gravity reframe it as geometry's shadow? Will anthropic reasoning be our only refuge, or will lab experiments someday tease a fluctuation in vacuum that reveals the mechanism? You are free to leave these as open doors, moonlit but unentered, trusting that walking them later will be sweeter after rest. A soft question settles. If acceleration keeps speeding, can expansion outrun light so far that galaxies vanish not only from view but from possibility forever? The answer waits in the next chapter's cradle. For now, sense the edge. Beyond a certain distance, recessional velocity exceeds c, and information cannot cross back. The push draws a circle around what can share causality with you. That circle shrinks in terms of future reach, even as the observable sphere grows with time. A paradox that is not painful if you hold it gently. You close your eyes and imagine the universe as bread still rising, with yeast that increases as the loaf swells. You taste the sweetness of that yeast. You accept that you cannot watch each bubble of gas form. You only enjoy the smell. Dark energy is aroma without source in your kitchen, yet undeniably there. You let aroma be enough in the background of your thought. Numbers murmur, omega underscore lambda approximately equals 0.69, omega underscore m approximately equals 0.31, 2/3 vacuum, 1/3 matter, a recipe for a cosmos where the push wins late. You do not need the decimals to 3 places, only the fraction big enough to tilt the endgame. The table is set. The meal is underway. Desert is slow and inevitable. As your breathing slows, the chapter's light dims to embers. You feel the acceleration in your chest, not as panic, but as gentle quickening, a reminder that stillness and growth can coexist. The universe is not racing away from you personally. It is making room for everything to drift with less interference. In that room, thought can wander, life can arise. Lullabies can be sung about lullabies. You slide toward the edge of waking, where ideas become images. A vast field, fireflies receding, a warm wind that thickens rather than thins. You reach out. The fireflies do not feel farther because your arm stretches with the field. Distance grows, yet touch within your lantern remains. You watch a few. Flickers dim beyond a veil and whisper goodbye like you would to ships leaving harbor soft, grateful, without demand to return. What remains is the question that glows like a small moon over the water of your calm. If space can push faster than light can cross, what happens to those lanterns that slip beyond forever? Do they fade, or do they simply become unreachable stories, still burning in their own night? You feel the pull of that thought, paradoxically a pull born from a push, and let it guide you toward the next soft threshold. Dark energy hums on, indifferent to witness, constant or nearly so. You hum back, a human answer in a universal tongue. A slow exhale, a whispered yes to not knowing, a readiness to follow the consequences wherever they lead. So long as you can walk there in the cadence of sleep, you turn, nestle deeper, and the fabric keeps widening. You drift, counting lanterns, counting breaths, letting numbers loosen into quiet wonder. Sleep takes you, yet questions glow. A pressure with no fingers keeps widening the dark, and some lights begin to slip beyond the reach of light itself. You feel them fade from grasp, not from existence, and you lean toward that gentle vanishing, ready to follow where distance outpaces speed. You sit very still and notice something subtle. Without moving an inch, your horizon grows. Time itself. Fairies new light to you, delivering scenes that were once beyond reach. You cannot march to the edge of the universe, but you can wait, and waiting becomes motion of another kind. Each second is a small unfurling, a petal opening on a flower whose stem is spacetime. You watch, you breathe, and in the breathing, more is revealed. To call it an edge is to borrow language from cliffs and shorelines. Here the border is made not of rock or surf, but of time's own limit. Photons need duration to arrive. Give them more, and the map extends. What you cannot see today may step into view tomorrow. Not because you chased it, but because light finally completed its slow pilgrimage. The frontier is not a fence to climb. It is an envelope that swells while you sleep. You think of a dark room slowly brightening as dawn deepens. The walls were always there, but your eyes could not trace them. Morning does not move the walls. It moves the line between seeing and not seeing. So it is with the cosmos. The observable sphere is a tide that creeps outward, its foam line set by the age of light. Stand still on the sand, and the surf still reaches for your toes. Patience. Here is a vehicle. You imagine yourself a gardener in winter, seeds beneath soil, no path to hurry spring, yet certainty that thaw will come. The universe is thawing in front of you, fogs clearing, distant lanterns stepping into clarity. You need only keep the telescope polished and your heart willing. This is why astronomers speak of look-back time. Each redshift is a time stomp. Each spectrum a letter postmarked with its emission date. By arranging these letters in order, you lay out history across your desk. New mail arrives each moment. Older and older stories finally told. The post office is tireless. You are the quiet reader, turning pages at the speed of light's delivery. Yet there is a paradox humming softly in the corner. Even as new regions appear to your gaze, others slip forever beyond your possible influence. Expansion with acceleration draws a curtain between can affect and can only observe. Waiting brings more to see, but not more to touch. The edge, made of time, is a two-faced border permeable to sight in one direction, impermeable to causality in the other. You learn to love asymmetry. You picture the particle horizon, the furthest distance from which light has reached you since the birth of space. It grows, like a child's vocabulary, every day a new word, a new star, a new nuance. Then you picture the event horizon of the universe, the furthest distance from which light could ever reach you in the infinite future. That horizon is fixed by dark energy's insistence, a maximum future gift. Between these two spheres, growing and bounded you live, gathering what arrives, mourning what will never come. Waiting becomes its own method. Surveys run for years, decades, mapping swaths of sky repeatedly to catch the slow drift of clues. Parallax needs Earth to circle the sun again and again. Proper motions of stars require decades of careful remeasurement. Pulsar timing arrays sit like monks, counting beats for years to hear gravitational murmurs. Time is a lens that focuses only if you let it settle. You find comfort in the slow, fast answers often fray. In the cosmos, signals travel at a pace that enforces humility. You are forced to breathe between questions, to let hypotheses steep. This enforced gentleness becomes a habit you can carry into your own nights, where worries clamor for immediate resolution. The universe whispers, let them wait. Clarity is a traveler, not a lightning strike. Think of gravitational waves recorded from colliding black holes. We could not hear them until detectors were quiet enough, long enough, tuned enough. Then, when patience met sensitivity, spacetime itself whispered its distant earthquakes. That whisper expanded the frontier not by distance alone, but by messenger. Diversity. Time gave us the chance to build ears as well as eyes. Edges made of time are not only cosmological. On personal scales, there are truths you cannot force. Healing is temporal. Insight ripens. Relationships thaw. You learn that you can sit with an unanswered question, and in the sitting, the question starts to answer itself. The cosmos practices this daily. You mirror it gently. You wonder if there is something beyond the ultimate event horizon that will always remain out of view, possibly likely, but that does not make your waiting empty. A painter rarely sees every pigment on the palette at once. They choose, layer, glaze. The unseen colors exist, but the chosen ones still yield a masterpiece. Your observable patch is not a limitation. It is an invitation to intimacy with what you can know as you wait. You also create instruments that borrow time from technology. Long exposures accumulate photons, stacking faint signals into visibility. Integrate an hour and you see more than in a second. Integrate a week and galaxies. Bloom where there was black. The CCD becomes a bucket. Time fills it. Even amateur astronomers know this magic. Set them out. Guide the stars. Let the shutter open. Trust the hours to paint. There is also the time it takes for theories to mature. Inflation was a sketch, then a candidate, then a suite of models. Then a near necessity given the data. Lambda was a mistake, then a ghost, then a pillar. Each idea waited in the wings until evidence called it forward. Edges in thought move by patience as surely as edges in sight. You practice gratitude for delay. If the universe were instantly transparent, no story would unfold. Everything, everywhere, all at once would flatten narrative into glare. Time's staggered reveal lets you read meaning into sequence. The cosmos teaches pacing, and you let yourself be taught to wait well. You learn to measure well. Clocks become sacred. Atomic transitions keep time so steady that a clock on a shelf will disagree with one on the floor by a sliver. Gravity's small stretch of seconds, just perceptible. GPS corrects for that. Cosmology corrects for lights, fatigue, for dusts. Dimming, for lensing's magnification. Every correction is an act of respect for time's uneven flow. Let that respect sink into your bones. Your own days are uneven too. Some hours dilate with joy or fear. Others blur. You do not berate the clock, you adapt. The future arrives at 1 second per second, but your experience rides curves within. The universe does the same. Global rates, steady, local tempos varied, and all of it stitched together by the patient thread of causality. You sit, perhaps by a window, perhaps in a dark room, and you let the metaphor of knitting guide you. Each moment is a stitch added to the scarf of the observable. You cannot add stitches faster than your hands can move, but you can keep moving them. The scarf lengthens, warmth accumulates, gaps close. A pattern emerges that required waiting to see. Horizon science thrives on surveys that last longer than careers. Some astronomers start projects their students will finish. That lineage is a chain of trust that time will reveal, trust that care spans generations. You feel yourself part of that chain, even if only as a listener across. The gulf, continuity, becomes comfort. Still, the question shadows the edge of your drowsiness. If waiting is a journey, where does it lead when dark energy limits the mail? There will be a final postcard from certain regions, a last photon after which silence settles. The frontier then becomes memory archives of what was once seen, models of what cannot be seen, extrapolations held with humility. You will read, by candlelight of data that can never be expanded. That candle may be enough. Edges made of time are soft, but they are real. You can press your imagination against them and feel the give, the springiness of possibility. You cannot muscle through, but you can lean, you can listen. You can build better microphones, and you can sleep between attempts. The universe rewards such cycles. With each technological dawn, the veil thins. Radio, microwave, X-ray, gamma ray, neutrino, gravitational wave. Each new band stretches the definition of observable. Time not only delivers photons, it gives you inventions that catch different messengers. The edge is temporal in both directions. How long signals took to come, and how long you took to learn to hear them. You begin to sense the next theme glowing ahead. After all this waiting, all this measurement, all this respect for time's reveal, what happens when the breath outruns light itself? When expansion's speed erases the possibility of ever receiving certain signals. You feel that approach, like fog rolling in slowly. The edge of time intersects the edge of speed, and together they draw a quiet boundary around your future sky. That thought is not frightening when you hold it gently. It is a lullaby about limits, not an alarm. Limits give shape. Shape gives solace. You place your palm on the cool glass of what cannot be crossed and feel not frustration, but acceptance, cooling your heartbeat, slowing your mind. The chapter closes like a curtain falling in slow motion, but the play continues backstage. You will hear muffled lines, catch shadows, maybe glimpse a prop carried in the wings. When the curtain lifts again in another chapter, another question, you will be there, patient, eyes adjusted, ready, so you wait, not idly, but actively, attentively. Waiting becomes its own kind of journey, one measured in heartbeats. in photon arrivals, in evolving error bars, in deepening calm. And as you settle deeper into the mattress of night, you understand that time is not only what separates you from knowledge, it is also what delivers knowledge gently enough for you to bear. You breathe, and somewhere a photon clears the last megaparsec of its billion-year road. You exhale, and somewhere a detector finishes cooling to the sensitivity needed to catch it. Between those two breaths, a new inch of universe becomes yours. Time itself is the slow river you ferry across. You cannot swim faster than its current, but you can angle your boat, set better sails, sharpen your oars. Technology is that, or patience that sail, questions the small rudder you keep adjusting with each new glimmer of data. In this way, you move without leaving the dock, and the shore still comes to meet you. Waiting teaches you tempo. Inhale for wonder, hold for doubt, exhale for letting go. Between those beats, discovery fits like a quiet note on a staff. You realize progress is a cadence, not a sprint, and cadence is kind to tired minds. You lie back, letting tomorrow's light find you, and feel another question rise with the dark. If you cannot chase the future's edge, will the universe keep stretching? Forever or one day, gently learn to slow and fold. You lean back into the dark and let the question arrive without hurry. Will this stretching ever stop? The universe inhales, longer and faster than you first imagined. Yet every breath must meet a limit, you think. Or must it? You picture fabric. On a loom, threads sliding farther apart. Could the weaver pause? Could the shuttle reverse, drawing threads together again? Or is the loom itself committed to widening until threads are too far to speak? Once, cosmologists pictured three fates, simple as story endings. A closed universe, heavy with matter that would slow, halt, then fold inward. A flat universe, balanced on the knife edge, drifting to a stop in infinite time. An open universe to light to ever cease expanding, forever thinning, forever cooling. Three endings like three lullabies, return, rest, or endless drift. Then dark energy stepped softly onto the stage and rewrote the sheet music. The push in emptiness changed the tempo. Now the lullabies branch into variations, new codas, strange bridges between verses. To feel these possibilities, you let metaphors stack. Imagine tossing a ball upward. Gravity slows it, stops it, pulls it back. That was the recollapse dream. A big crunch, everything returning to embrace. Stars in reverse, light squeezed blue, time running not backward, but toward a final heat. Yet imagine, instead, a tiny rocket attached to the ball, firing just enough to overcome the pull. The ball keeps rising, not because gravity failed, but because another force insisted. Dark energy is that rocket, quiet, persistent, hard to turn off. Still, gravity fights locally. Clusters remain bound. Galaxies merge. Stars thread orbits. The universal choice stop or not plays out only on the grandest scales. You rest in that duality. Small things can still come together even as the big picture flies apart. You are a small thing, and that comforts you, suppose. For a moment, that dark energy is truly constant. Then the scale factor grows exponentially. Expansion never stops, never even slows toward a plateau. Distances double and double again, a quiet runaway. Future observers, trapped in island galaxies, might think the cosmos static because nothing beyond their halo remains visible. Their equations would show no expansion simply because there would be nothing left to measure it against. A lonely misreading, born of missing context. You feel a tender ache for those hypothetical astronomers peering into emptiness, certain the universe is small when it is only hidden, but constancy is an assumption, not a verdict. If dark energy evolves, if W creeps above -1 acceleration, could wane, the universe might coast, like a car on a flat road after fuel runs low. If W crosses below -1, phantom energy dominates. The push strengthens with time. Then comes the big rip, a nightmare-soft scenario where bound systems unbind clusters, galaxies, solar systems, molecules, atoms torn by expansion itself. The timeline could be trillions or billions or mere millions of years, depending on the ferocity of the phantom. You shiver, not from fear, but from the oddity. Space as a tide that rips pebbles apart. Alternatively, gravity itself could differ from what Einstein wrote. Modified gravity might mimic dark energy now, but fade later, letting attraction slowly reclaim dominion. A slowing expansion could segue into a holding pattern, universal psi. The math allows many curlicues if you tweak the laws, but the data keeps most curves in check. Still, you let the thought rest beside you. Perhaps the loom will slow its hands. There is another whisper, cyclic cosmologies. What if expansion is merely a phase in a larger heartbeat? Brains colliding, universes bouncing, entropy reset by unknown tricks. A big bounce instead of a big bang, or a series of bangs and rips, stitched like pearls on an infinite string. If so, stop is a misnomer. The universe would never truly rest. It would trade between stretch and squeeze forever. You admit, gently, that evidence for such cycles is thin, but the idea rocks you like a cradle that swings both ways. Heat death is the quiet favorite of current physics. Expansion forever. Temperature dropping toward absolute zero. Stars burned out, black. Holes evaporating via Hawking radiation over unimaginable spans, 10,100 years and more. All processes flatten, all gradients fade, everything becomes a uniform mist of low-energy photons and leptons. Not an abrupt stop, but a fade out. The credits roll without music, just a long silence. You picture that silence, and, instead of dread, feel a peculiar softness. The universe would not die with a scream, but with a sigh so slow it sounds like wind across an endless field. Yet rest inside heat death is not closure. Quantum fluctuations could spark new inflating patches, baby universes budding from the quiet. Eternal inflation already hints that bubbles never cease forming. If so, our cosmic story is a chapter in a library still being written. Will it ever stop? Becomes a local question, not a universal one. Your bubble's breath might cease, but the foam still fizzes. Closer to home, you ask a simpler version. Will the night you know ever stop being starry? The answer, painfully, is yes. In roughly 100 billion years, galaxies beyond the local group are gone to sight. In 1 trillion years, most stars are red embers, then black dwarfs, barely glowing. The sky goes dim, but you will not be there to mourn it, neither will your language. Speculations about those far epochs are lullabies to past present nights, not forecasts for your diary. They matter because they enlarge your tenderness now, not because you will file a complaint then. Preparation, still, is part of science. We measure W, we map structure growth, we test gravity to decide which story bedtime deserves. Projects launch to narrow uncertainties, to see if the push is steady or slipping. Euclid, Roman, the Rubin Observatory, Desi, they are all fingers on the universe's pulse, charting the curve toward yes or no. You listen through them, grateful that curiosity keeps the lights on. You imagine expansion as a breath you share. If the inhale never stops, you adjust your lungs to matching cadence, slow and unhurried. If one day a pause comes, you meet it with equal calm. Your body knows both rhythms. Expansion when you stretch under a yawn, contraction when you curl into sleep. Either way, the gesture can be gentle. The question of stopping is also the question of meaning. If it stops, does that grant closure? If it never stops, does that deny purpose? You recognize the trap. Purpose is woven locally, not granted by cosmic punctuation marks. Galaxies drifting apart do not undo kindness. A big crunch would not validate cruelty. Meaning is crafted like pottery in small rooms. Regardless of whether the kill is eternal or cyclic, still, science prefers answers. So you visit the equations once more before drowsiness takes the chalk from your hand. Friedman equations govern the scale factors fate, curvature, matter density, radiation, dark energy terms, balancing like soft stones. Plug current values in, you get acceleration, run the clock forward, you get asymptotic de Sitter space. A vacuum-dominated, exponentially expanding stage. To change that, one of the stones must slide. Observations so far keep them steady. Therefore, with provisional confidence, you hum. No stopping, only thinning. But knowing is provisional. You rock on the edge of maybe. You rest your cheek against the cushion of uncertainty and find it surprisingly comfortable. Uncertainty is not a hole, it is a hammock. It holds you between branches of possibility, swaying as new data blows in dotso. You let images drip, a universe folding like a tent taken down at dawn. A universe plateauing like a song holding its last chord forever. A universe racing outward until chords themselves lose meaning. Each image glows for a moment, then dims. None frightens you. You have made peace with ends and non-ends alike. Eyelids lower. Behind them, you see raisins again in endless dough, some never touching, some swallowed back if the baker changes mind. You see lanterns sliding out of reach, yet still burning, telling stories you will never hear but can imagine. You see gravity as an old friend who cannot win the marathon but still walks you home. Will it ever stop? The honest answer is, we do. Not know with finality, but we know enough to hum along. Right now, all signs point to no stop, only slowing structure and speeding voids. That is the melody you fall asleep to, a long diminuendo, not a slammed door. You tuck the question under your pillow like a note for tomorrow. In the morning of some future mind, better instruments may unfold it and write a clearer reply. Tonight, you accept that rocking helps even without a rival. The boat rocks, you drowse. The shore, whatever shore there is, can wait. Between this chapter and the next, a softer question rises. If the universe might stretch forever, what does that say about your place inside it? If it might end, what does that change? Either way, you are woven through the fabric. Maybe the better question is not about the universe's stop, but about your own expansion, your breath, your kindness, your wonder. Do those stop? Do they need to? You drift, held by possibilities, cradled by maybe, stroked by numbers. The dark is warm enough. The loom clicks on. Somewhere, space widens another fraction. Somewhere, gravity braids another star, clustered tight. You surrender to both motions, equal and opposite lullabies. Sleep edges close. You are almost across. One last thought tiptoes in. If endings are uncertain, then attention is precious. You choose to attend to this moment, this breath, this glow over your bed. The universe can decide its finale. You decide your softness now. You let go. The question remains, but its teeth are gone. It purrs, a curious cat curling at your feet, not asking to be solved, only to be companioned while night passes. And in that companionship, another wonder presses forward the thought of you, not separate, but of the universe itself, stretching, feeling, asking. If the cosmos keeps widening, perhaps your own sense of self can widen with it. You exhale, and every possibility hums once more, like strings tightened, like dough rising, like silence expanding. So you linger, adding weightless minutes to the night, and let further endings bloom like cautious flowers. Picture a big crunch turning all light into one last brilliant flash. A cosmic sunset folding every horizon inward until space itself puckers to a point. Then picture a big freeze where no flash comes, only the long thinning of light into wavelengths so wide they can barely be called waves. Between these, imagine a big slurp vacuum, metastability, where a lower energy state bubbles somewhere and expands, rewriting physics in its wake. Low probability, perhaps, but nights are generous to possibilities. Let your mind draft a softer variant, perhaps constants drift slightly, cooling dark energy's urge, letting curvature or new forces emerge. Perhaps an unseen symmetry snaps, coupling dark sectors we barely track, feeding expansion back into structure. Outcomes proliferate, but your role remains the same too. Listen gently, to measure carefully, to let questions nest instead of forcing them to fly down classrooms and observatories. The question, will it stop, is translated into derivatives and integrals, into fits and priors, into confidence intervals. Yet under the math sits the same drowsy wonder you feel now, the childlike tilt of head toward the sky. Scientists are bedtime thinkers too. They just write their lullabies in latex. The fire in your chest dims to coals. You find a rhythm, possibilities in, certainties out, doubts in, acceptance out. The seesaw balances, not at the midpoint, but swaying, always swaying. Sway becomes comfort when you trust the fulcrum. Time is that fulcrum. You lean on it, notice how every scenario still leaves you with moments. Even a rip takes eons. Even a crunch leaves epochs of starlight before reversal. Even a freeze is lavish, with chances for warmth to flicker locally. The future's immensity dilutes doom. When scales grow that large, fear shrinks to fit. You keep perspective by zooming both ways galactic spans and the tender square meter of your bed. Here, in this square meter, the expansion question is a story lantern. You set it on the nightstand. You watch it burn softly. It is not a taskmaster. It is a nightlight. Under its glow, you remember another theme waiting on the next page. If the universe may never stop, perhaps the truer ending is the one inside you, sleep itself, surrendering waking thought so the mind can drift wider than logic allows. You yawn. The chapters blur. Questions dissolve into images. Dough without edges, waves without shores, clocks without last ticks. Each image strokes your hair once, then leaves. You let them go outside. Space keeps stretching. Inside, muscles unclench. Two expansions rhyme. And between them, a pause appears. The breath held at the top of an inhale, right before the easy fall of release. You rest there, weightless, suspended in maybe. You rest on that breathless pause and feel another wondering rise. If the universe may drift forever or fold someday, what does it mean that you are part of its widening? And how quietly can you return to being it? You lie on your back and feel the room soften, and then you notice the boundary between you and everything else is more suggestion than fact. Skin is a shoreline, yes, but molecules cross it, light crosses it, warmth crosses it, and ideas cross it most of all. In a universe that keeps widening, you are not a passenger sealed in a cabin. You are part of the deck, part of the sail, part of the wind itself. Your atoms know this story better than you do. Hydrogen born in the first minutes, helium forged in the small hot cradle of the early cosmos, carbon cooked in red giants, calcium smelted in supernova shock fronts. They traveled, collided, cooled, assembled, and now they whisper through your cells. You are not borrowing from the universe. You are the universe, rearranged into a question that breathes. When space stretches, those atoms ride the stretch, bonded tight but floating in a fabric that lengthens beneath them like taffy pulled in slow motion. Feel your breath. Inhale, and your ribs widen. Exhale, and your body settles. The cycle is small, but the rhyme is grand. Space inhales, and you echo it, a tiny resonance nested inside a larger one. The more you pay attention, the less you can pretend you are an observer looking out. You are a verse that the cosmos is currently reciting. Your thoughts drift, and even that drift is physical. Electrical patterns shivering across membranes, ions tunneling, neurotransmitters diffusing in synaptic clefts, no wider than fractions of light's smallest waves. In each flicker, quantum rules hum. In each cascade, chemistry sings. To say I think is to say the universe contemplates itself through this pattern. The universe's expansion is not only the widening of voids, it is also the widening of possibilities inside skulls and under ribs. You can test this intimacy by dissolving scopes. Zoom in, proteins fold according to energies shaped by forces set seconds after the big bloom. Zoom out, your city glows in satellite photos like a neuron firing in the brain of the night. Zoom further, the filament that holds your galaxy group belongs to a web seeded by tiny temperature ripples in the microwave background. Each scale talks to the others. You are an interpreter among dialects. Say it softly. There is no outside. You are not in here while the universe is out there. The cup and the tea are the same water in different shapes. When photons from a distant quasar touch your retina, they finish a journey begun before Earth was Earth. Their arrival is not a meeting of strangers. It is a reunion of light with itself, awareness with its source. You welcome them, and in the welcoming, you stretch as well. Even your loneliness is cosmic. The gaps you feel between yourself and other people mirror the voids between galactic threads. Those voids are not mistakes. They make room for motion, for growth, for quiet. Yet gravity still knits clusters, and empathy still knits communities. Pull and push, together and apart, the balance that sculpts space also sculpts you. Consider your heartbeat as a local Hubble constant. It sets a tempo for blood, the way expansion sets a tempo for light. Both are rates, both are meaningful, both change with time. As a child, your heart beat faster as the early universe expanded faster. With age, the rhythms settle, though in the cosmos, dark energy speeds things again. A second wind you mimic when excitement spikes your pulse. You are tuned to these analogies because you are made of the same equations, just expressed with water. And carbon, instead of vacuum and photons, you rest a hand on your chest and feel warmth. That heat flows outward, infrared photons, leaving you for the room, a tiny contribution to the universal background. In 1,000,000,000,000 years, such photons will redshift to nothingness, but tonight they warm sheets. Scale changes everything, not essence. The universe loses energy gradients on vast spans. You keep them briefly and call the experience life. Life is expansion's poetry. Complexity blossoms because the universe cooled just right, because gravity gathered but did not strangle, because chemistry found niches in starlight and shadow. You are a niche, a warm, wet pocket where molecules practice remembering. Memory is a local negation of entropy, paid for by the heat you dump into the air. You resist the trend by riding it, like a surfer who stays upright by flowing with the wave. Think of how you learned your name. Vibrations in air, patterns of light on paper, signals in nerves. All of it depends on constants held steady since the first instance. Your identity is relational information draped over a scaffold of physics. When the scaffold expands, the information adapts. Cultures evolve, languages drift, stories stretch. You, too, stretch, maybe not in limb length, but in meaning. Let yourself dissolve further. The boundary between you and night is linguistic. The carbon dioxide you exhale will feed a leaf tomorrow. The oxygen you absorb tonight came from a star's burning heart. When you drink water, you ingest comet tails and planetary steam recycled 1,000,000 times. When you think of love, neurochemistry merges with narrative evolutions. Old drives mix with freshly invented symbols. Nothing stands alone. Everything is braid. The universe is not a stage you stand upon. It is a dance you perform. Partners, change, photon, proton, friend, foe, memory. But the music continues. Expansion is not a backdrop, it is the tempo line. Each beat opens more room for the dance, even as local circles tighten and release. You can feel constrained and free at once, because both are true at different scales. Here is a gentle truth. Your suffering, though real, is localized turbulence. The larger flow carries it, dilutes it not to dismiss, but to contextualize. Galaxies collide without malice. Stars explode without regret. You can borrow their neutrality when pain needs perspective, and you can borrow their ferocity when joy needs courage. To be the universe is to have access to every metaphor as mirror. Science itself is one way the universe knows it is expanding. Telescopes are its eyes, equations its grammar, conferences its conversations. When you read a plot of the Hubble parameter, the cosmos is effectively checking its own pulse. When you whisper wow at an image of a distant nebula, the cosmos is admiring its baby pictures. Awe is feedback, a loop closing elegantly. But you are not only awe. You are also maintenance, dishes, deadlines, dust. Do not discard these as uncosmic. Entropy rises in kitchens too. Stirring a pot, wiping a counter, folding clothes are all tiny acts aligned with thermodynamics. Folding fights wrinkles temporarily. So do galaxies forming disks. Repetition is not banality. It is resonance. Feel your thoughts slow. As they do, the membrane between mind and matter thins. Neurons fire less, but glial cells still tend. Blood still carries glucose. The liver still filters. Mitochondria still spin. Sleep is not disconnection, it is redistribution. Networks rewire, memories consolidate, synapses prune. Space, too, redistributes. Energy from radiation to matter to dark energy dominance. Phases shift. Function persists. You could worry that calling yourself the universe erases the specificity of you. It does not. A wave is wholly ocean and wholly itself. You are a wave with fingerprints, tastes, scars, jokes, song lyrics lodged in grey matter. To be universal is not to be generic. It is to be connected. Individuality is an emergent property worth savoring. A pattern the universe can only run once, here, now, with this exact initial condition. Value flows from rarity, and you are rare. The expansion outside gives you metaphorical permission to expand inside. You can widen patience, stretch compassion, dilate curiosity. When anger contracts you, remember there is room. When fear pinches, remember the voids support the web. Emotions are local geometries in psychological spacetime. Mindfulness is you solving your own Friedman equation, moment by moment, balancing density of thought with curvature of attention. Watch your breath once more. It is quieter now, shallower, but still rhythmic. The cosmos may head for a heat death, trillions of years hence. You head for sleep minutes from now. Both are descents into quieter states. Both are necessary. Neither is failure. After sleep, you will expand again into wakefulness. After heat death, who knows? Perhaps new fluctuations will spark. Perhaps not both options can be held kindly. You think of edges made of time, horizons that hide the rest. Your own horizon shrinks as sleep nears. Consciousness narrows, senses dim, inner space swells. Dreams are multiverses, spun nightly, laws loosened. Constants wobbling just enough to make impossible scenes feel ordinary. In dreams, you test alternate physics without consequence. The universe dreams through you, rehearsing MAYBES. Every chapter behind you has been about the cosmos. Every chapter has been about you. The duality was never a trick. It was a translation. Bread, dough and lanterns, bubbles and foam, horizons and hush, all are you explaining you to yourself. Bedtime stories turn mirrors when told slowly enough. Let gratitude rise. Thank the photons that left infant galaxies to end up as comfort tonight. Thank the neutrinos that ignored everything to pass through you countless times. Thank the helium in your bloodstream for steadying your voice. Thank the carbon for forming flexible chains. Thank the magnesium in chlorophyll for catching sunlight that fed your ancestors. Thank curiosity for evolving in brains that had no idea what stars would dot. Now allow a final softening. Words slow, images fade to silhouettes. The universe will keep expanding whether you fret or not. Your heart will keep beating whether you narrate or not. You can release narration. You can be the happening without the commentary. Silence is not emptiness. It is space for the next inhale. As you approach sleep, possibilities don't vanish, they loosen. The strict borders of waking logic give way to pliable seams. In that pliability, you touch the place where language fails and being proceeds. There. The statement, "You are the universe," is not metaphor, but directness. There, expansion is not measured but experienced as ease. You turn on your side. Fabric rustles, a tiny echo of cosmic ripples. Your eyelids fall. Behind them, darkness is not void, it is fertile. The same fertile darkness that held the first fluctuations holds your dreams. You are safe inside yourself. You are safe inside everything. Somewhere far, A galaxy slips beyond the event horizon of your future. Somewhere near, a synapse strengthens. Both are departures, both are arrivals. The scale is irrelevant. The pattern is shared. Becoming is the rule, stillness the illusion. You become sleeper. The universe becomes wider. Both truths hold your hand. You could ask one more question, but questions multiply. Better to let them seed the night like stars on a new moon walk, guiding but not glaring. The next chapter is not really next. It is here, folded into this breath, this drift. It waits in the pause between inhale and exhale, between being you and being everything. Hold there, softly. The pause is a doorway. You do not step through, you dissolve through. And dissolving, you learn the easiest lesson. You were. Never outside, never separate, never other. You were always, simply, this matter, thinking, space breathing, time humming, now rest. The universe will keep opening. You drift, and in drifting, you expand without moving. Love without reaching, understand without phrasing, and fall not away, but deeper into yourself, which is everything. So sleep, expanding thing. Sleep, widening thought. Sleep, quiet universe, wearing your name for a little while longer, before the first neuron in a newborn fires. Space has already stretched beyond anything that neuron will ever name. Yet, when the first cry comes, expansion acquires a new verb, to feel. Feeling is the cosmos noticing its own temperature from the inside. Later, when laughter shakes a ribcage, curvature shakes too, microscopically, yet enough to matter locally. The grand does not cancel the small. It composes it. Think of language as a lattice, an internal cosmic web. Words are galaxies, grammar the filaments, silence the void that lets sense form. Tonight your lattice loosens, galaxies drift, syntax thins into cadence. What remains is tone, the background radiation of meaning. It hums, regardless of sentences, like microwave warmth drenched across the sky and pillow alike. Even your mistakes are cosmic experiments. Misunderstandings are local fluctuations. Most damp out, some seed new structures of insight. Forgiveness is negative pressure in the psyche, letting relationships re-expand after contraction. Apology is a heat exchange, disorder acknowledged, energy returned as balance. The physics of hearts is softer, but it rhymes, and if someday sentience fades, if minds go quiet while the universe rumbles on, that does not erase what happened here. Information left in prints and fossils, in photons, in altered trajectories of dust. Your choices slightly redirected sunlight, changed the statistics of air currents, nudged a future snowflake. Echoes persist, however faint, the universe keeps. The score, not in ledgers, but in paths. So when you breathe out now, imagine you are releasing a tiny standard candle, a warm pulse marking this coordinate, this time. Someone or something may never see it. That is fine. The act completes itself. You contribute to the hush, the great background of lived moments. Soon the pronoun you will blur, replaced by dream pronouns that shift shape. Let them. Identity is a handle, not the pot. When morning returns, pick the handle up again if needed. For now, set it down and let the pot simmer in dark energy's kitchen, fragrance filling the unseen house. You loosen into the dark, not leaving, but widening, and feel a final whisper rise, a homecoming folded inward as the universe, wearing your breath, curls quietly back to listen.